Hello, everyone. I'm having a chat with Spinosauruskin about Gynocentrism because there's been a bit of a to-do about it, and I thought I've been watching a few of the videos about it, and I've got an input. So, how's it going, Spinosauruskin?
I'm all right, I guess. Lots of drama and just so.
Yes,
I guess
I have seen these strong words exchanged on either side. Has anyone called anyone a cuck yet? Just out of interest.
No, not yet actually.
It's
been mostly intellectually dishonest and not worth speaking to.
Yeah, I'm a bit worried about the term intellectually dishonest, to be honest. This is actually something I think is worth addressing generally, because I'm using it I'm seeing it used thrown around as if it means cuck or statist or misogynist or something like that. People seem to be taking any opportunity to use it, and I think we should probably be as generous as possible. I mean, I don't agree with Christy Winters on a lot of things, but I think she's right on the principle of charity. So I don't think that either one of you is. I mean, I don't think either one of you is willfully intellectually dishonest. So, you know, and I think that the pair of you consider yourselves to have integrity when dealing with facts and figures and arguments. So I think that we can dispense with accusations of that if that's all right, because I don't think they're necessary.
I don't think Killdeer is is saying anything he actually thinks is bullshit. I'm not going to accuse him of
So he's
lying
not being intellectually dishonest then, you know, because to be dishonest you have to know you're being dishonest.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I mean, if you think he's wrong, that's fine, because I'm sure he would say exactly the same about you, and it's not an accusation against your character or his. So let's stick with you just think he's incorrect, because that's the
and actually that's what I've been trying to keep the sort of what ended up in just a shit flinging in the comments. I was trying to keep to just stick to the points, just stick to the arguments and the facts and what was actually said.
Yeah,
and then I ended up with like a mass. Tilde responded with about like several paragraphs of insults.
Well, I don't know if I'd characterize them as insults, but he's definitely been quite prickly on the subject. But I imagine he's had a lot of people criticize what he said, because I think I think this whole gynocentrism thing. I mean, it is true that society is gynocentric. I mean, you can't. You can point to empirical statistics to show it, you know, like prison sentences and all this sort of thing. So there's no doubt that there's a gynocentric trend towards European societies. I mean, this is long. I mean, Einstein visited America and he said that men were the toy poodles of their wives. You know, this has always been a characteristic of like English-speaking societies. Probably because
arguably
shut up.
But there is, to an extent, it is even arguably to an extent in just every human society, even sort of
it is
even your Middle Eastern, harsher Middle Eastern societies. It's not like as it doesn't look as nice for women there.
Well, but I think they would say that they're trying to protect women.
Yeah, you know, and if you hear like a sort of a Muslim preacher in a country like that, what they say about the Americans is they rape and they beat their women and degrade their women, and that's why the other man is bad. And then you'll find a fundamentalist Christian preacher saying the exact same thing about Muslims.
Yeah.
And you'll say you'll hear feminists saying about all men. So
yeah, but I mean, I think doing bad things for someone's own good is generally not something that anyone would choose. So even claiming that that's the case, we can look at it in a more, I guess, sort of like human rights perspective and be like, okay, well, these people are not gynocentric. You know, these people are treating women like property, and these people are treating women like aristocrats. So, you know, I think there is a distinct difference in tenor and tone that we can identify and be satisfied with, even though you're right, they would say that.
I just have to point out that when you're talking about something like a Middle Eastern society, most people are just poor as shit. It's a bunch of really, really rich people, like a very small number of really, really rich people, and they treat everyone like shit, men and women.
Yeah, but that doesn't change the fact that in like Saudi Arabia, women can't leave the house without a male escort. You know, I mean that's not a status. You know, even poor people, their sons will take them places and stuff like poor women. You know, that's true. I mean, there are genuine. I mean, in Islamic
and then you also have the you also have then the problem that anytime your female relative wants to go somewhere, a male relative has to go with her. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's just a shit deal.
Yeah,
all
it's just an
basically.
oppressive system. You know, that's I would hate if my aunt was, oh, I want to go to the shop. I don't care. In fact, I could probably say that on the Sharia, but I'd be like, you know, I don't care. I'm living. No, come on, you're taking me. They just fucking henpeck me into it, I guess. I'm like, for fuck's sake, what am I supposed to say? You know, but I guess, you know, if you're in Sharia, maybe. Sorry, no, this is.
I'm sure that actually happens. I'm sure that actually happens.
I know. I've got no doubt. Man, you should meet the fucking women in my family. They piss me off. No, they're great. This is one of the reasons I hate feminism, because I'm just looking at these women thinking these women do not need feminism. If anything,
they wouldn't stand for being oppressed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. They just would. My nan said exactly that. Actually, I was asking her because I was literally asking, do you think that you were oppressed when you were a little girl, or do you think your mum was oppressed by your dad? And she was like, no. And I was like, why not? And she's like, well, we didn't stood for it. And I was like, well, there we go. You know, that's why that's why our countries are generally gynocentric. Is our women are demanding. That's what it is. I swear to God. But anyway, so what's the nature of the issue? Because I mean, Tilde, I don't really understand what he was trying to point out with this. I mean, I just took it as read that everyone understood that women had a sort of privileged status in society. I mean, it's undeniable, right? I mean, it's obvious.
Well, the real argument gets not exactly around gynocentrism, because most people will accept, that women have specific privileges, and this is to do with the like caring more about women when they're victims. You know, the whole 300 people die, 20 women and children die.
Yeah. This thing, I agree. That is without a doubt a factor in our society.
Yeah.
Sorry,
and most people actually accept that, and it seems to be more. When that accusation was leveled, I saw it was more of a straw man than anything else.
In what way do you mean that's a straw man?
Because because the way that the whole video was set up was it was a rant about all these. So Tilde's video started out, I don't like these. I'm not a huge fan of these new channels that are coming out. They're all these comedic channels that just insult people, and they're not exactly intellectually honest. And then he started to go on to gynocentrism and hypergamy, and accused people within the anti-feminist community of like disagreeing with these things. And it just appeared that those accusations were actually connected, and it especially his final statement.
So so I'm not sure that they necessarily follow. But the thing is, I don't know what I mean. I don't know about the people that are, and I imagine there are. I've heard that there are lots of new channels springing up. I don't really keep track anymore of people who are doing the same sort of thing, but just for comedy. And I guess that's fair enough. That's their choice. You do what you want, and people watch. But I don't know. What? Sorry, did you say that he was saying that people in the anti-feminist community deny gynocentrism, or just
deny gynocentrism, but the real argument actually doesn't seem to be gynocentrism. That's more of a sort of diversionary tactic. It's actually hypergamy. That's the thing that really gets everyone's goat. That's where all of the argument ended up being between me and Tilde.
Okay, so what was the difference? He was against hypergamy and you were for it, or what?
Okay, so hypergamy is this idea that the primary mate selection tactic for women is status for men. It's things like to marry up, social status, it's money and stuff like that. Even though different MGTOWs that I've been arguing with seem to define it in like 1,000 different ways, the general trend seems to be that this is somehow that it's money, that this in this modern society, the way it's expressed is money. It's marrying above your socioeconomic status, and this is something that women are sort of biologically programmed to do.
Yeah, and in many ways they do. I mean, a lot of women do. I mean, I'm not saying the majority or anything, but this is something that some women do, right?
Yeah, it is something that some women do, and but I'm still not necessarily completely. I'm not accepting of this idea that it's biologically programmed for all women or most women to do this, unless I'm actually going to get some genuine evidence. And I came up with some other explanations as to why.
Let's stop there then, because I think you're right. I mean, this isn't like a guaranteed thing that all women would do, and I think this is really where the MGTOWs go wrong, where they think there seems to be this streak of biological determinism in much of the sort of. Well, there are people who are a lot more biologically determinist than other people, and I think this is really where the difference comes in, because I don't like biological determinism as an answer to these questions, because then it takes out the component of rationality that all human beings have, male and female. You know, everyone has these urges, but not everyone acts on these urges. So,
yeah, it's kind of like if you kept the answer of biological determinism, the civil rights movement never would have occurred, because oh well, people are biologically programmed to see people that look different to them as inferior or dangerous.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
But we still managed to. Yeah, why bother fighting?
Slavery of these people wouldn't be seen as a bad thing.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, the thing is, I just want to the whole hypergamy thing. I mean, it's usually I always see MGTOWs talking about it as if it's some terrible crime, and I'm just like, well, men marry up too. You know, then when a man gets divorced, he doesn't get a fat, slovenly second wife. He gets a young hot wife because he's got more resources. You know, he gets the younger. That's what they say. You know, I'm going to replace me with a younger model. Women say this all the time, because that's a man's equivalent of marrying up.
Yeah, I just keep thinking, is it actually the resources though? Is that the actual defining factor behind?
I imagine it's
behind female mate selection. I don't think it is.
I mean, there are a lot of things. I imagine genetic fitness is a major issue.
Yeah, and I think that it's all the. Because think about it, if this is going to be an evolutionary explanation, then we're going to have to look how this would have actually expressed itself thousands of years ago. And hunter-gatherer societies didn't really have access to resources. They didn't really have much.
Hang on. You're looking at the wrong perspective, right? The thing is, hundreds of thousands of years ago, physical fitness procured resources. You know,
yeah,
you could kill more, you could carry more, you could defend more. You ended up with more because you were physically stronger and fitter, or as fit as other people, you know, than less fit people. So there is a distinct intrinsic tie between the two. And so when they say resources, I mean, you know, that ultimately, yes, that is, but that's like.
Yeah, so would it be more likely that women are selecting for certain behavioral characteristics that are causally linked to resources?
Sure.
Things like intelligence, confidence, social skills. It's a crazy idea, but maybe success with humans in human societies translates to success with humans.
Well, yeah, but what I mean is, this is a really weird way of approaching the issue, and I'm not saying just you're all guilty of this. This whole discussion is framed in a really strange way to me, because, I mean, I like I said, this all comes from reading strategy manuals. But one of the first things that is basically implied is just self-interest is always there. You know, the idea people are going to do things against their own self-interest is ridiculous. You know, especially when you're talking about people planning their lives. So, yeah, if a woman is in a marriage, it breaks down, and then she marries a guy who's making more money, I mean, there's no way you could say, well, that's not the right thing to do. Of course, if you were doing it, you would do exactly that. You know, you've not getting married, and it's the same with a guy marrying a young woman and all these sort of things. So I find the idea that, like, the idea that this is wrong is coming from a position where they're saying, look, you owe me this love. And I don't want to sound like a fucking feminist about this, but you're not looking at it from the perspective of the person who's actually doing this work, and vice versa. You know, if a woman's demanding all these things for herself, then she's not thinking about it from the other perspective. So I find the framing of the debate very strange. But sorry, I probably interrupted. Carry on.
Shoe on head in the chat. My first boyfriend was working 3 jobs and was poor as shit. My second one just quit his professional, well-paying full-time job to live off YouTube. Where is your god, hypergamy?
Oh, God. So what exactly about this is then the contention? If
Well, the contention is really that is that, well, it seems that I'm being mostly misrepresented. That I'm looking at it from a point of, well, for one, the things like social status and money aren't really the sort of things you would find genes to actually sort of link to. You're not going to find
the
like
expression
genes
of
to
that
search
in
for.
genes
Yeah.
is for attractiveness.
Yeah, and the expression of that in the genes would be specific characteristics that are causally linked or correlate with it, rather than anything else. And I just keep getting hit with, oh, you're just a social constructionist, you're a biology denier, and you're
but by the same token, if that was true, then they would be being biological determinists, because they are ignoring the fact that women can make decisions. You know, I mean, any man could meet an attractive woman who is interested in him and then decide to follow his natural urge to abandon his wife and children and then make a new family with this new attractive woman. But I'm sure very few men actually do that, because they think, well, you know, A, I don't want to be disloyal, B, I love my children and my wife.
Oh, you're going to love this, though. It's the MGTOW idea is that men actually feel love and women don't.
Okay, that's like the feminists. I've heard too many feminists say that.
Yeah, no, I've genuinely heard it.
Have feelings and men don't.
Have you heard of Curd Flinging Monkey?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, he did a video, MGTOW, She'll Never Love You. It's been on my sort of list of videos that I will never actually get round to responding to list for ages.
Well, that's not true. You know, women obviously do have feelings like other human beings, including men. So yeah, no, you can't possibly know that. You know, and I mean, there are obviously the thing is they really seem to be taking like a small portion of people and making that to represent all women. You know, I watched V and Black Pigeon Speaks debate on a women ruling society, and his position was just untenable. You know, it was just V had him on so many different things that he couldn't give an adequate answer for. And I'm just thinking, man, you know, you just admit that maybe you've been a bit hasty. You know?
Yeah, it's love is a human.
Love
is a human emotion. Women are not human. Actual quote. Yeah, I've seen that.
Was Teal Deer actually saying that? Or was that just other like?
No, that's another. That was another person. But
okay, so what was Teal Deer actually saying to you? I mean, I've got some screenshots that Griffiths has done. Thanks, Griffiths.
Yeah, thank you, Griffiths.
Admin power, you totalitarian Jesus.
Do not give her admin power. Yeah. I mean, I kind of banned someone from her stream, so she might do the same here.
Yeah, she probably would. She'd probably ban everyone. So yeah, I've got something. So do you want? There's quite a lot here. So can you sum it up for me at all?
I can go back to where we actually started.
Mm-hmm.
I got to go back to a bunch of a little bit. Give me a minute. I've got to find it.
Okay, so because I'm just looking through it, and it seems to just be pedantic logic fucking games that, you know, seem to be a little bit open to interpretation, to be honest. So, you know, you both probably do feel that you're right on this, and I'm sure that there is a degree of correctness to both positions. And I'm not just trying to be like a, you know, moderate fencer or anything. I just
that's fine.
He gives you some links saying some of the junk science of hypergamy. Go away and hand wave it away as pseudoscience again, though. I mean, you know, you agree that hypergamy is a thing, right?
Well, what I mean is, I don't think it's a thing in the way that he's making out, and a lot of other mixed
all women or something.
That A, it applies to all women, or B, that it's a direct thing that like it's being painted as.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I'm not going to say how it's being painted. It is something that applies to all women to a degree, in the same way that a man marrying a younger woman is something that applies to all men. Any man in the position who's got the prerequisite set of levels of finances, attractiveness, blah, 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 would be tempted to do the same thing because they would have the power to do the same thing. And it's all this is all about having the opportunity and taking it. And most women either don't have the opportunity or don't take it. Only a few women do have the opportunity and do take it, and they're the people that I think. This is what I mean about the Black Pigeon Speaks. He kept trying out that MGTOW stats from I can't remember what dating site it was, where like 80% of women did a survey and found 80% of the men less than average attractiveness. And they
I had to go through that as well.
They seem to be wildly misinterpreting this because, I mean, a dating site is not like a representative sample of the population.
Yeah,
ugly men are on dating sites. You know, they can't get a date in real life because they're ugly. You know.
Oh no! Here's the thing. For one, it may just be that men take bad pictures.
Yeah, it could be
two. The dating sites tend to be overwhelmingly male, so the women on there are going to likely be more picky than the men.
That's true.
And then the problem was that this was something that Teal Deer himself had uploaded a couple months ago, but it was from a MGTOW YouTuber, Coltane, who had then taken this and applied it to a graph of just pure attractiveness, as if it was women rate men's pictures from 1 to 5, men rate women's pictures on 1 to 5, and he took it to success in long-term relationships, as if this was supposed to be some kind of
I don't think that necessarily correlates either.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't want to go too far on this yet.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not very impressed with that thing. So why was he suggesting you wave away the junk science of hypergamy as pseudoscience?
Well, I'm hoping that he just misunderstood me, and this wasn't just a diversionary tactic. So I'm going to be charitable.
Yeah. Well,
so I asked because I had actually addressed those MGTOW stats you brought up in my video, and he hadn't actually addressed it in the hadn't addressed those points in the comments. So I asked him, "Are you going to address the junk science you uploaded on your channel?" And he responded with that, thinking I meant something else.
Right. And
then we got into an argument about hypergamy rather than the conclusions of the video that he'd sort of promoted.
Right. Okay. So I'm just going through the comments at the moment as well, just looking through them.
Yeah, it's a bit of a TLDR, which is quite ironic.
Yeah, that's what I was asking for at the beginning, to be honest, because it's long and argumentative.
Yeah, and then I sort of took the tack. So he sent me those studies, and I so then I said, okay, so you got one here that just shows it's a common trait, that it just happens. That doesn't necessarily prove it's biological. The second study he showed me, and here's the abstract. Here's the abstract. In the present study, we sampled 208 college students in an attempt to explore participants' understanding of the definition of and attitudes towards romance. Like, what has this got to do with hypergamy? I don't even understand it.
Well, the thing that seems to me from this particular thing is you're talking about two different things. What I took from his video was that he wanted hypergamy to be understood to be a thing, and gynocentrism more broadly. And I left a comment to the effect of, okay, that's, I don't disagree with anything you're saying, because I'm sure his studies do actually say what you're saying. But what can we do with this information? I don't really. I mean, it's like saying, well, men are stronger than women. It's like, okay, but we're not going to make policy on that, are we? So it's one of these. It's okay, yeah, these are biological realities, but they don't dominate every woman. I just don't. It doesn't seem to be any productive thing. I mean, I just assumed everyone knew this. Maybe they don't. I guess the feminists certainly don't. But that's one of the reasons that the majority is ridiculing them, I would have thought. But actually, I had a point that I've just forgotten. Sorry.
I wouldn't necessarily call us a majority at the moment. We're more of a there's sort of a silent majority.
Yeah,
just doesn't do anything.
But you can tell by the relative growth of feminist channels and anti-feminist channels that most people understand that women are protected by society. You know, they're treated very well. You know. And,
Oh yeah, and that was the thing that really confused me the most, because several years ago, if you tried to explain that to a lot of people, even anti-feminists, they would have said, "No, that's bullshit. We're just we're all equal. There are no issues. Men and women are all equal." And
would they be saying that they're all equal, or they're saying they're equal under the law and therefore that's enough?
Yeah, but they're not.
Well, okay, they're not. You're right, but most people don't know that. Most people are thinking about voting rights, sentencing, and again, they don't know that judges just happen to be a lot more generous with women. You know, on the books, it doesn't say discriminate based on gender. So
that's true, but then there are things on the books like circumcision.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Most people don't care about that, so they don't think. Yeah, they don't think about that when they're thinking about equality under the law, right? So as far as most people are concerned, the equality is there in most people's minds. So that's why they wouldn't agree with you. But what I mean is,
but now, I have to say though, now that has changed. Like, most people will sort of listen to those issues and say, okay, I see your point here. So
I think a lot of people have seen like Fathers for Justice and stuff like that, dressing up as Spider-Man, saying, "I want to see my kid." You know, I think there is a lot more awareness of this sort of thing, and domestic violence as well, actually.
Especially that.
But what I mean is, he seems to be arguing that this exists, and you seem to be arguing that not all women take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's a really.
Is that not what you're trying to say? I mean, you understand it exists, but it's not something that dominates or rules women's judgments.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and okay, but I mean, I don't know.
I'm more sort of arguing about why it exists, and I'm suggesting of alternative biological explanations behind it, rather than there's this sort of biological programming to look for money.
Okay, but he seems to be arguing that you think it doesn't exist or doesn't have an influence.
Yeah,
I'm just looking at these comments. So you may have addressed this differently in the video. I haven't seen the video. You understand it exists. I'm sure that he would agree that not even most women are ruled by this and whatnot. You know, I'm sure he would agree that, because obviously that would be the case. So coming to the sort of, I would only call it semantics, but the biological argument then, he thinks it's about resource collection, and I think it's probably about resource collection as well. But you think obviously that's not necessarily directly expressed in the genes. And
it's more of a
things like physical fitness.
Yeah, via things like physical fitness and intelligence, and just a bunch of other factors that just happen to be causally linked to success in human societies. Yeah,
and I think he would agree with that. But the purpose of these things is resource gathering, isn't it?
Yeah, that would explain why women would choose men with they would marry up in certain societies.
And I think it also, I do think the resources are the ultimate goal, because otherwise you wouldn't have gold diggers. You know, like women marrying ugly men who happen to be rich. You know, women would demand, like, you know, it'd be like men. I mean, men don't generally marry unattractive women if they can help it, and yet women will do so if the man has got money. So, and not all women, obviously, there is a percentage of women. So, I mean, I don't think he's wrong on that issue. You know, I think they are after resources, and it is, it's not necessarily money. It's just, food, shelter, the basic biological necessities for the biological entity of a human being to survive in the wild, right?
Well, I don't think it's consciously about resources. I just think it just happens to express itself that way because of...
Well, I think there are definitely women who do express it consciously as resources.
Oh, yeah, and there are individuals, but I don't think that's like this massive majority.
No, most women. No, of course not.
Yeah, but that's kind of what's being argued about is the conscious this is about resources attitude is most women rather than some women.
Okay, I guess I'm thinking of it in the sort of almost sort of Machiavellian way that there are some women who sit there and figure out how divorce laws work, marry men, get divorced, take advantage of what they can under the divorce laws, and they're bragging to their girlfriend saying, "Oh, I'm going to take half his stuff, blah blah blah. He'll never get to see his kids." Ha 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 ha. Right?
Oh, that doesn't even happen. That doesn't.
Yeah, but there are women who do that, and these women are obviously fucking awful people. But this is the problem with the laws, not necessarily. It's not
it's the lawyers.
I can make a moral judgment, but they're not doing anything illegal. They don't deserve to be punished. So
yeah, it's lawyers as well. Lawyers will cause this stuff to keep going and dragging on. Yeah, I know someone who's going through a divorce thing like that, and the lawyers are the ones who are pushing.
What I mean though is that if a man and a woman, if she's unhappy in the marriage and there's obviously like some irrevocable break, and she's like, right, okay, I want a divorce. I mean, it's obvious she's going to think of her financial future before she does that, right?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So there is the conscious thought towards resources, because that's what we're saying about resources in modern society is money. Nobody's worried about how much wood or fucking stone we have. We're talking about money, and so obviously there is this. So he's not wrong to say that women are consciously concerned with resources, but what I think he's wrong on is the idea that, I don't even know if he's saying this, but if he is saying that women therefore turn into some evil. Well, no, he's not going to say it like that, but like if he's like, right, okay, a woman's like, right, I'm going to get as much as I can because I can. I think that's doing a bit of disservice to the good character of many women,
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think that for at least a majority of women that would really factor in a huge amount to their to who they're going to end up dating.
Yeah, probably not. I think the thing is, right, I think this is really about human. I think it's really about character, because what we're talking about are things that we all agree are bad things and yet are not illegal. So we're just talking about social norms and mores. And I think that these are like this because of biological realities. There are women who can do these things. They can get a man to get them pregnant. They can do all these things. And, if they're attractive, then get quite a good and attractive, intelligent, wealthy man to do this. But the thing is, it's obviously an abuse of your own power. And so this is why we think of it as bad. Sure, you can do it. That makes you a shithead because, you had all the power in the circumstance. They had no real way to resist. If they'd known what you were doing, then maybe. But, if you're presenting yourself, blah, blah, blah. And so it's an abuse of personal power, basically. And I don't think most women are inclined to abuse their personal power. I think, just like most men, if you got like women going, "Oh, well, men are all potential rapists," it's like, well, technically that's true. Any man could rape a woman, assuming there's nothing physically wrong with them. But it's whether they do or not, because it's an abuse of the natural power that we have as a different gender. It's the same thing with sex appeal in women. So I think it's the same thing. This is a thing, but I think most women don't take advantage of it, at least in any harmful degree, any more than a man would from being like maybe assertive to try and get a woman's attention or something. I don't think these are necessarily evil things that are happening, at least in the majority of cases. What do you think?
It's more of a and I really wish that there was more of a productive discussion about this, but I think it ended up just that because of maybe just the way I worded it, or the way Tilda worded it, or just because things escalated. But it ended up being several paragraphs of insults. So after we got to the whole hypergamy thing, and we argued about that for a while, then at the end, it just ended up being just several paragraphs of just pure insults. So there's no point in addressing you, and this is the last time I will engage with you directly on this, because you've consistently demonstrated a total lack of willingness to even talk civilly about it. You've pretty solidly demonstrated you have no interest in this and just want to be the poner, don't want to read, don't want to listen. You just want to be the big scary YouTuber who gets everyone wrecked for clicks and doesn't actually have to address something that counters your worldview. That it's all society and politics and biology can't even be a factor, because despite all the evidence to the contrary, that biology is part of the reason.
Right. Was that his comment to you? Sorry.
Yeah, that was one of the paragraphs of like this of his final response to me.
Right. Okay.
And yeah, I just.
But I mean, there is a biological component to this, right?
And I wasn't even disagreeing with that. I was just suggesting there wasn't a biological, there wasn't this general biological component to specifically, I'm going to date with you, I'm going to date you because you're rich, kind of thing. There's a lot of reasons why you get cases like someone like Elliot Rodger, who was just so fucking insecure that even though he was loaded, that no one wanted to touch him.
Yeah. This
kid was creepy and everything. Yeah, and he
must have had something seriously wrong with him now, on reflection. Because man, can you imagine having all those advantages and still not being able to get laid? Fucking hell! What a fucking loser! But fuck me, that's pathetic. That's just like, wow, you really fucking screwed the pooch on that one, Elliot. Okay, so. Okay, I'm not here to like settle the drama or anything. I don't know anything about that.
Oh no, I know. I don't think it's going to be settled.
I don't think that he is a biological determinist, and I don't think that he thinks it's the be all and end all. And he's right when he says this. So I don't see why this has turned into such a big issue, really.
Well, I'm not. I think it's just more of the. It seems to me the. And this is just sort of my the vibe I got from it is that Tilda's video on it felt a bit atheism plussy. I watched that happen and it felt the exact same way.
Okay, well, I don't think it. I think that might be a bit of a misapprehension.
Yeah, I know it. And I'm not saying that's actually true. I'm just saying that's how it appeared to me. And then when when the whole video was just sort of put together and had all these sort of otherwise unrelated points, it just everything appeared to be setting up a bit of a straw man to sort of knock down, and then straight after he's talking with Stardust, and then on my video within 18 hours of each other, all of the big name MGTOW content creators were on it, as if they were all, as if there was something going on, like Stardust, Barbar, CS MGTOW.
No, this is called the cascade effect. This is what you see in the feminists, where they find a subject they want to talk about, and then dozens of things do an article on it. This was the thing that really shocked me about Gamergate, is that I didn't realize, I assumed they had been conspiring on Game Journo Pros to organize this. But the reality of it is they don't need to conspire. They see someone virtue signaling this issue, and they all jump on it because they want to give their perspective on it. It's just something that happens with ideological communities. That's
I know.
the thing.
Actually, it's also virtue signaling is kind of a term that's pissing me off recently.
Well, okay, maybe I was being a bit fast and loose with it there, but
I know. It's just
everyone. Sorry
as well.
It's
like, you did something good. You must have been doing it to look good.
Yeah, I was quite disappointed with Black Pigeon when he was talking to V and he accused him of white knighting for women. I was just like, he was just like, you're just white knighting for women. I'm like, mate, that doesn't address his fucking answer. The argument.
I need to do a video on Black Pigeon because he just does not understand voting rights. Like, there wasn't really a point where women didn't have the vote.
It was literally like a year after men got the vote in America and Britain, wasn't it?
Pretty much.
There has been so little. It's literally negligible the amount of time men could vote without women voting. So it's really not something you can can draw something from.
And this is actually something I've noticed with traditionalists, is that they kind of see the world the same way as feminists. They just see it in a different way.
Yeah, there is the. I mean, I found the whole women destroying the world. They're voting to letting in immigrants. And it's like, women. Nobody voted for this. If people had had the option, they probably would have fucking voted UKIP from the fucking start. Just no one voted for mass immigration because no one was running on it.
Yeah, it seems the only people who are voting for mass immigration are the politicians in the
Brussels.
EU.
Yeah, literally, it's a bunch of Europe.
It's not the public.
It's Angela Merkel dictating to Greece and Macedonia who they're going to have to
no,
take
but she's
in.
a woman though. She's a woman though.
Yeah,
Therefore, identity politics and
yeah, exactly. You know, therefore she must have been elected to do this. Yeah, no, it's silly. But the thing about gynocentrism and the MGTOW community, it really seems to be drifting towards the sort of biological determinist position, and maybe it always has kind of had that strong undercurrent to it. But the term gynocentrism, it's starting to sound a lot like the term patriarchy.
I have actually
really,
kind of shied away from use of the term.
Yeah, I mean, it really is starting to like become noticeable. That,
yeah,
I mean, they'll say, yeah, you know, that this is gynocentrism or that's gynocentric. It's okay, but that doesn't really explain anything, and it's a bit nebulous now. You know, I mean, yeah, I agree in the strictest definitions. Yeah, there definitely is a gynocentric trend towards human beings, but you know, you can't just use it as an all-encompassing term that just dismisses things. That's, you know, it's the same with libertarians and statism. Just, you know, government, just stop being so general. I know it's easy, but you know,
yeah, it's becoming a bit of a thought-terminating cliche, which is why I'm. If I could just, and the problem is the term itself is kind of a little too technical. So it's really, it really doesn't help sort of bring in new people if you hear a term like that, especially if they're anti-feminist. It makes us look too much like them. If you could just sort of show an example of something and then explain it, then it takes a little longer, but then a layman will understand it more.
Yeah,
pretty much.
Yeah, and it helps make your point a lot more clear. I noticed that Stardust is in the chat. Stardust, do you want to come on and talk to us about this? Because I know you talk about this quite a lot, and I'd be interested in hearing what your opinion is.
Yeah, I would be willing to hear Stardust speak about this.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. I mean, I'm sure he spent a lot of time thinking about this, and he's a long thinker. You know, he spends, and that's meant as a compliment as well. That's one of the things I like about Dan Carlin, is he takes, like, he doesn't rush things. You know, he
except for his comment on my video, which was basically gynocentrism don't real, cool story, bro.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't, you know, I don't think anyone's denying that. The issue is how much of a factor is it? And it's certainly a factor in some, but it's not a factor in others. So, you know.
We're definitely capable of overcoming it.
Yeah. Yeah, let me... I don't have the context out of this.
Let Shu on as well. She wants to shout resources and leave.
Shu can go on that guy's stream and tell her that, you know, she's also a taxpayer and wants public roads. What now, team? What now? Roads. The taxpayers want public roads.
Yeah, okay. I have had funny comments on other people's videos, but I haven't ever directly strawman someone like that obviously.
But the thing is, I think you might be strawmanning his position slightly in suggesting that he thinks that's everything, because I'm sure that he would undoubtedly say that this is not everything. So I just think he wants it recognized that this is a thing, and some women take advantage of it because they can. But I mean, this is my point. Though, what can we do about this? There really
God, Griffix is here for my resources. Help me, fucking Griffix.
It's all right. We'll just defeat the Netherlands again in another trade war.
No. She's Danish, and German. She's everything but Dutch.
Did anyone in the chat see Stardust's reply? Because it's going really fast, and I think I missed it.
I haven't seen it. I'm gonna pop out the chat, see what I can do.
I mean, I'm loving all the shit posting, but it's making discussion difficult.
This is what you get for having a Sargon stream. Yeah, it's, and I have to admit, like at the very least, Stardust did try to have a conversation, unlike a lot of the other big towels who just sort of accused me of virtue signaling for to try to get women's attention and shit.
Yeah, I'm sure that I'm sure they did. This is, a really common feature of ideological communities.
Yeah, so and I actually ended up like sort of having a bit of an argument with someone who I have been friends with for quite a while, whose YouTube profile just pro male. That's it. And yeah, we actually were were kind of friends before that, and I just we ended up arguing loads in the comments. I think he accused me of white knighting a couple times as well.
Right. Okay. Okay, I guess he's not interested because I can't see anything from him. Okay, was there anything else we need to discuss? Because I mean, this just seems pretty open and shut. I don't see why. I mean, unless I'm massively misinterpreting like his position here. I mean, he might think that all women are biologically determined by gynocentrism or something. I mean, I'm sure he doesn't, but I mean, what?
A message from someone. So no word from Stardust then?
Not to my knowledge. So okay, so this has been a storm in a teacup, is what you're saying?
Kind of, and it seems to be a bit to an extent a bit of a semantic argument.
Yeah.
And I did want to, and I was trying to keep it on the points because I knew otherwise it would just get into a shitfest. But it seemed I must have pissed Tilde off a little too much before that, and yeah, we just so then the conversation never went any further.
Right. Okay. Stardust has said he's received an invitation. That's true. I haven't sent one yet. Where do you want me to send it to, Stardust? Can you contact me on Twitter or
Skype?
Skype? Yeah, I'm sure if you search for Saga of a Cad, you'll find me on Skype. I thought I had him on Skype, to be honest, but apparently I don't.
I haven't got many of the MGTOWs on Skype either. I got fucking feminists on Skype, but not MGTOWs.
I have both. I've got alt-right people as well. This is the thing. These sort of ideological communities are. I don't think they're a good idea, man. And like, I mean, literally, what you get from MGTOWs is what everyone who disagrees with the community in general, what they get in every one of these. You know, you get a feminist, you get a fucking MRI. Well, probably not MRIs. I don't go to any MRIs, so I don't know. But you go to the alt-right, you go to like the anarcho-communists did exactly the same thing. I was like, wow. And I had no idea that they were so protective over some Spanish Civil War ideology. Okay. That's exciting. I'm sure it'll conquer the world one day. But yeah, it's just this general hostility. And I think because people become emotionally attached to it.
Yeah, that's actually kind of why I think this whole hypergamy thing keeps coming up, is because at least the way I see it talked about in a lot of MGTOW circles is it's basically women can only see value in men's money because then a lot of the more cynical MGTOW types can paint all women as being inherently programmed to be shallow, materialistic, narcissistic gold diggers. I mean, and then they don't have good in them. Then you can demonize them, and then you can perpetuate MGTOW.
Man, he's just contacting me on Skype. Sorry, I'm just making sure I've got the right person. I'm guessing he doesn't go by Andrew Perfect Trump 2016. I'm guessing that's someone else.
Actually, I think that might be one of your shit posters.
I hope so.
I think I have seen him in one of your streams before.
Anyway, if it comes down to Trump, Hillary, Trump all the fucking way. Anyone but Hillary. Anyone but Hillary, man. Just
at that point, I'm just like, nuke America.
Yeah, absolutely. She's awful. Stardust, you here?
I have arrived.
Oh, how's it going?
I just need to turn off the volume and so it doesn't repeat on your chat. Okay. I have arrived, yes.
Yes. So what's your take on this whole issue? I assume you're here to give it.
I guess. I mean, I kind of made a general response to the anti-feminist crowd that I was going to sort of just leave there. Sorry.
Do you want to run me through it quickly, and I'll be
I can concisely explain my position.
Sure.
I don't actually have any problem with ponage per se or anti-feminism. It's certainly more useful than pro-feminism or a completely neutral position.
Yeah.
But my basic takeaway from this whole conflict, if you wish to call it that, and that might be the incorrect description, is that certain MGTOW are interested in subjects that really don't have a whole lot of crossover with the anti-feminist crowd, and that's fine. What I object to is the idea, this term that's flailed about pseudoscience. Now, some of us are scientists, some are not. I'm just a person interested in science, and I don't claim to make perfect observations or that everything I've ever come up with is perfect either. But generally speaking, I try to present data, and I try to work with data. Now, some of the data I work with is, frankly speaking, boring to a lot of people. And, you know, I can't expect people to be terribly interested in it. And there should be some clarifications now that I have the opportunity.
Please.
I think there's been much internal debate amongst certain members of the MGTOW community. See, there isn't even a community. People who refer to themselves as MGTOW, as to whether or not the title is even relevant. I mean, I could easily drop the title without really very much being affected. But I think there needs to be some understanding of the history of the YouTube of MGTOW. So for the audience and everyone here, let me present this. Most people know Sandman, aka Sand Scam. This guy, I was the first one to call him out well over 2 years ago. I thought he would lead to the detriment of MGTOW and sort of thoughtful, critical thinking in MGTOW, and I've been absolutely correct. And effectively, he has brought ruin to the quote-unquote reputation, to the extent that reputation even matters, to the MGTOW community. And of course, he's low-hanging fruit. I even found Shoe on Head's parody mildly amusing.
Just to, in case anyone's not familiar, he's a homeopath, isn't he?
No, Sandman is a salesman. He doesn't. I mean, I don't know if he's a homeopath.
Logic did a video where he was going through Sandman's some of his stuff, and there was one part where he was talking about homeopathy and actively promoting it. So yeah,
Sandman has a lot of crazy positions that, and most of the idiot MGTOWs within my comment section have, especially one who's very prolific, Fucker9, happens to just be a Sandman fan. So I'm definitely not going to in any way suggest that the MGTOW community is just this one completely connected thing. There are definitely different schools.
And I think there is definitely a difference between sort of what Sandman does and what certain other people do. I don't know, like MGTOW or something, you know, MGTOW Light. So this is like MGTOW for simpletons or something. I don't know, you know, like there's obviously a difference between what you do and what he does. And just to be clear, I'm not unsympathetic to the MGTOW community at all. You know, I'm just being constructively critical about the way I'm viewing it from the outside. But sorry, go on. Sorry.
Well, I'm just saying that I hark back to a time when there were very few content producers. It was largely unknown. And Sandman is correct in the sense that he has certainly managed to popularize the acronym. Whether that's a good or bad thing, I suppose that's a matter of your own personal take on it. But and there are also other factions, if you will, and there's been a lot of infighting in the so-called MGTOW community because it's not a community. I don't even pay attention, for example, to things on Reddit. I kind of just do my own thing, and I cover all kinds of things. In fact, for those of you interested in what it's like to be an apostate who's fled Saudi Arabia, last night I had a chat with just such a gentleman. So I cover a wide variety of subjects. Sometimes I cover things directly pertinent to MGTOW, or if you want to say that. But my primary interest is, you know, what is making human beings tick and how it affects society and civilization. And when you look at the landscape, you see 90% plus of homeless being men, the disproportionate amount of expenditures with regards to sex-specific diseases like prostate cancer versus breast cancer, and a host of other things. It's hard to not think that this is just merely political. And I think that there is absolutely what we term gynocentrism, this a gynocentric worldview which favors women in these issues, particularly in matters of health and life and such things. Protection, yeah. Now, calling that gynocentric, I don't really see a problem with that, because I think, and I mean, I don't want to go through, I've said this a million times, but this all harks back to a time when, I mean, women still are a limiting factor in reproduction, when, you know, we didn't have police and a state and all of these things. It's just a natural response. And I'm not even saying we should necessarily correct this. I mean, it doesn't affect me. I have no interest in the reproductive game. But observing that and stating that I don't see as problematic. And yes, I reserve the right to use the word just because feminists use it. I don't really care. But I don't really, if one takes issue with those observations and then linking that to the term gynocentric, I mean, you said that gynocentrism is a bit like patriarchy. The difference is there really is loads.
No. I didn't say it like that. I said
it sounds like it. It rings awkwardly of it rather than an actual, rather than being completely sort of the same thing.
I mean, for example, when feminists say patriarchy, I think Saudi Arabia, because that is an actual patriarchy. You know, you can demonstrably say that's a patriarchy, and you can demonstrably say that we are a gynocentric society, like you said, with all of these examples, and there are many more. And like you say, it's not necessarily something we have to change or anything, but it is true. But the thing is, it's being used as the sort of catch-all term, and again, it's in comment sections and it's in people, you know, talking on Twitter. So it's not like in academic terms, or, you know, if you could use that phrase, but it's. This is how things morph into, oh, it's the patriarchy, you know, it's the gynocentrism of society, you know. Well, it's in danger of going down the same path.
Sir, if I might interrupt, I think there's certainly a danger of it being carried away. Unfortunately, there's no way in the wide space of the internet to police every comment, and I don't even favor policing every comment. I mean, I have people coming onto my channel advocating genocide of certain people. Now, I actually, living in Germany as I do, I think I actually run a legal risk in not deleting those comments, but I don't generally really delete those comments. Doesn't mean I agree with them. And I mean, gynocentrism is used to describe a very specific set of phenomenon rather than just everything. So I'd have to look at what some of these comments are. And once again, I know this is going to stir up shit again with Simon after I had vowed to not bring that up again, but I really lay the distortions in what had been a lot of work and critical thought into explaining the gender dynamics have really, well, Simon, thanks a lot for fulfilling all my fucking prophecies if you hear this. But you know, honestly, at the end of the day, I still just kind of do my own thing. I mean, all the MGTOWs in the world could go insane and do all kinds of wacky things, and it largely wouldn't affect me. I don't think my audience has a lot of crossover.
I'm not asking you to answer for them or anything. That was really a statement for any listening, and I think we're on the same page here. I mean, it is a thing, and I think we need to be very sure about what we mean when we say it. That's all I think. You know, so we don't get the sort of patriarchy, racism, sexism creep.
Well, okay, but I mean, certainly this conversation was called to order due to Teal'c's video. Now, I mean, if frankly speaking, I think Spinosaurus mischaracterized his position consistently, and I think it was well, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt that it wasn't intentional misunderstanding, but everything Teal'c said in that video, I just said, well, that's it. I mean, at the end of the video, he just said, how do you explain the following phenomena? And maybe there could be some more rigor. Now, He wasn't as he said a million times in that video. I'm exaggerating with
Yeah.
hyperbole. That he's not targeting specific people, and perhaps he could have targeted specific people. But how constructive is that? And how beneficial is that? He wanted to put forth a general message.
I think the problem was that, and here's my issue with it, was that it was making accusations towards a community without giving any real examples. It was just sort of saying, oh yeah, this has become oh yeah, this sort of anti-intellectualism is becoming more common without showing anyone who was saying it. Like if I were to go and say that the MGTOW community is just becoming more and more and more misogynist, you'd probably want me to say some. You probably want me to sort of show some how I came to that conclusion, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but the thing is, I mean, I think it is important to understand the idea of tact as well, because Tilde has, I don't know, 100,000 subscribers, 130, something like that. That's a large number, and I'm sure that he wasn't trying to get small channels he disagreed with swamped. I do think that he would have thought of that.
I think he was trying to get an idea across without necessarily targeting people, even if certain people might well fall within the purview of what he was talking about. And I think that's a perfectly legitimate approach, and one I think ultimately you have to respect him for. I mean, he could have just been, really cheap about it and said, this dude, get with the program, and he didn't do that.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually do think that's to his credit. I mean, I'm doing the same thing with saying to MGTOWs, beware of using gynocentrism as a dismissal phrase. Oh, that's gynocentric. Don't fall into that trap. And I'm not. I could probably give you specific people who have done it, and I don't want to. It's unproductive.
Peculiar pangolin. That's actually a very nice, interesting animal. I like pangolins, but there's a guy in the comments. Teal there didn't give specific examples. I mean, the reason why he didn't, cite specific examples once again was because he was just offering a sort of a general overview of what he's seen developing, and of course it was a kind of criticism. And he said a million times, in addition to that, yes, look, the ponage and the funny stuff is great, and we need it, and it's also necessary. I don't really see
it's doing more harm than good. That was.
Well,
and I disagree.
Well, as I'm paraphrasing here, I think he put it something along the lines of it's all well and good, but it's essentially, everyone's having a laugh while the building burns, and I think that is a fairly accurate statement.
Yeah, I agree, but that's there's a time and place for gallows humor as well. So.
Yeah, no, it's fair enough.
Well, yeah, exactly. I don't. I mean, my opinion on that is just do stay in your lane, I guess. If you don't like it, okay, it's a fair observation that this is happening, and that's true. There are more and more channels, but it's not for you to say what other people do. If with their YouTube channels, that's for them, isn't it? So,
Well, but once again, Sargon, he didn't tell, and that's the whole point. He didn't tell specific individuals to do something with their channels. He made an observation. It's obvious that some people might have felt personally affected by it, or it was directed to them, and maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I can't read his mind. I don't think it was directed to anyone specifically, but he offered his. Sorry.
Baring felt it was directed at him specifically.
Perhaps, and I can't stand Baring. I see you're there. How's it going, mate? But so what? It's not like it's going to interfere with his trade. I mean,
okay, well, let's talk more about gynocentrism, less about drama then. So,
sure.
What do you think the sort of purpose of him highlighting gynocentrism is? What does he expect us to do with this information? What can we do?
Well, the ideal situation with regards to discussing gynocentrism is it making it as public a form of knowledge as anything else that is sort of commonly known. I'm trying to think of an analogy off the top of my head. Well, for example, I mean, the wage gap, which has been debunked, a million, quadrillion times, et cetera, everyone at the very least in the anti-feminist camp or people who don't approve of feminism, Eeyore, oh, well, appreciate it. I have been called Eeyore before, so thanks, sir. Everyone knows that. Now, when we look at many of these phenomena, though, I think we don't have a word to sort of describe what's going on. I mean, for example, the workplace death, the suicides, all this stuff. I mean, as you probably know, the leading cause of death in men 35 or younger in the United Kingdom is suicide. Why is that? Well, there are a lot of social reasons, right? Such as alienation and unemployment and all of these things. But we ultimately have to find some kind of cause. What is leading to that? And when society bends over backwards to give women everything they want, as is the case in modern Western society, you end up with men who do things like that. And that is something which you could describe as gynocentric.
Okay, that's true. That's all completely true. And you're right, it is the innate desire of men to cater to women that is leading to them getting lower prison sentences and all this sort of stuff.
Right.
And and completely biased family courts.
And I don't know if we can fix it, but the awareness is important.
And you're right. However, gynocentrism, talking from like a PR perspective, is not the right word. It's too.
I suck at PR. I'll be the first one.
Yeah, whenever I'm talking about myself, I do as well. Whenever I'm talking about other people, I think I can spot the problem. And so gynocentrism is not the right word because it sounds accusatory. It sounds conspiratorial. People are turned off by it.
Yeah.
So, but
perhaps. But I mean,
it's technically accurate though. But I think I think there might be a better way of phrasing it, and I think the way to phrase it would be anti-egalitarian.
Yeah.
Anti-egalitarian. Well, I mean, I've taken. I don't really know. I'm not an egalitarian. It depends on how you define it. I'm curious because I've heard you use the term egalitarianism extremely often. What does that mean to you?
As well, in common parlance in Britain, it means equality under the law.
Right.
Which
we don't even have. Not even that we don't have.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. That's the point. We don't even have that.
Yeah.
And so, if you say we want egalitarianism, we want equality under the law, these laws are anti-egalitarian, then that is not only demonstrable on the face of it, but it's the burden becomes on the person you're talking to. The failure is on the person you're talking to. The lawmaker or whoever it is who's supposed to be addressing this.
Yeah, and that's hard to argue against.
Exactly, because it is obviously anti-egalitarian. One is not being treated the same as the other under the law, and there's no argument against it. That's if you want to be an egalitarian, everyone wants to treat everyone equally. Under the law, who is in favour of laws that discriminate based on gender? Nobody's in favour of that, and we have examples of that. So, I mean, it is the technical term is gynocentrism, but to present it to people, I think anti-egalitarian would be a much stronger and less contentious way.
Perhaps, but it doesn't. I mean, for the PR purpose you described, that might be fairly useful, but I'm not so sure it really taps into the sort of reproductive biological origins of that. So I agree with you that probably isn't the look. I mean, for example, I was discussing with some alt-right white nationalists the other day in the comment section. I said, well, why use the nebulous term, white nationalism? I mean, there's so many different kinds of Europeans. And I started talking about European haplogroups and all this other stuff. And they said, well, that's just not as catchy. And I realized that, but I'm just not a catchy guy. I don't think I personally could. I just wouldn't do it. I wouldn't sort of transform that term to make it simply more appealing to the masses.
Well, the thing is, I mean, I was just approaching that from a PR perspective, but the thing is, it's technically correct as well. It is anti-egalitarian.
Right, but don't you think understanding the origin of these things is important?
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But the problem is people, again, only some people want to know about what the reason is, and so that if you appeal specifically to those people, or some people don't know that they want to know the reason, and if you appeal specifically to the people who know they want to know the reason, and they don't just want an explanation of what's going on from like a first sort of prima facie standpoint, then you're going to miss talking to these people who you could bring in, because I mean they're undoubtedly going to agree that these things are anti-egalitarian, and then so what's the reason? Well, I mean, society's just got a general bias towards women, and it does. You can demonstrate this. You can persuade a lot of people, and then at the end of it, and this is what we call gynocentrism, rather than, I mean, this is, I guess, one step on the road, but presenting it up front, it becomes a roadblock, it's in people's minds.
And it doesn't, and just using the term anti-egalitarian doesn't mean that you don't understand the underlying causes. It just means that you're not expressing those underlying causes in that specific conversation.
And
Well,
a part of this, just to add to that, and a part of this might also be because of feminists, because they use patriarchy in an accusatory way. A lot of people might hear gynocentrism in the same accusatory way, even though patriarchies exist and gynocentric systems exist. You know?
Yeah, especially if like by the time that someone were to come to the government or the general public with these kinds of issues, and this is the point where we're starting to win the culture war against feminism in general. A group that kind of sounds like feminists might not get as much PR, might not get very good PR. It might just be
or just traction with the general public. And I do genuinely think that this is like, I don't want to call it the manosphere, but like, you know, what we're doing here, like the dissenters, you know, the people who are like, look, there are definitely angles to these issues that you're not considering, and they do go a long way to explain a lot of things. I do think we're starting to really sort of become a loud voice, and I think we're going to be heard, you know, further and further afield. So it's I do think it's worth considering, but the thing is, I don't think anyone disagrees that this is about gynocentrism. But the thing is, you can't really do anything you can't propose anything based on that, you know?
Well, okay, perhaps. Well, yes and no. I mean, if you concede that this is about gynocentrism, then one has to understand that MGTOW is a rational reaction to a set of circumstances that was brought about by certain biological factors, you know, the biases
Absolutely.
you talked about. And some, I mean, to be fair, I've said this before in some discussions, actually with my talk with Teal there after he released that video, that I suspect, I can't name numbers, but I suspect that many MGTOW-minded men probably would like to go through all the traditional rituals of marriage and reproduction. I'm not, but I admit I'm a freak. But they just see the system as just being too difficult to navigate and too risky. Saying that is, you know, the result of gynocentrism, I don't really see that as a problem.
No, that's not contentious at all.
You know, but I mean, once again, I'm not trying to run a PR campaign.
No, I know. But what I mean is, the thing is, when you're trying to change a system, you have to be there to present an alternative. That's the thing.
Well, this is, I find, something contentious about you. Is that do you honestly believe we can change the system? Because I think, in some sense, it's unchangeable. I see no evidence that it can be changed, to be perfectly honest, and that might be a depressing message, but sorry, go on.
I won't know until I've tried.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a really good attitude to start with, okay, this isn't ever going to be solved, and so we should never try, because that's a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy, don't you think?
Perhaps. I don't know. I mean, it's just all the evidence in the world, and, you know, nothing is. Maybe it's just a matter of time, but I mean, this has just been the trend for decades now, and
Sure.
I think the trajectory might be too, or the slope rather, the incline might be too steep now to actually make any change.
Maybe, but I'm in the culture war to win it, so I'm going to try.
Okay, okay. So
to
to quote the name of the film, I mean, what does winning look like?
Winning, to me, looks like women getting the same prison sentences as men. The male suicide rate decreasing, you know, things like that. You know.
Okay, so let's talk about the male. That's an
I'm not
interesting
expecting
thing.
perfection.
Male suicide rate decreasing. That would be a laudable goal, of course. But how does one bring that about? I can offer some things that would be. I can offer some arguments that would be repugnant to most people to bring that about. But I don't think, once again, most people would accept them, and I don't even. And I'm not particularly invested in those arguments myself. It's just saying that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. I shouldn't have chosen the male.
No. Vernaculus. Can I respond to Vernaculus?
Very quickly, yeah.
Okay. It won't be quick, so please continue.
Okay. Let's go with the prison sentences example, right? That's.
Oh, you're talking. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, that's a very easy one to demonstrate to people. You know, I mean, we can literally show them the figures side by side, and they can be like, "Oh God," and you can go, "Yeah, this is anti-egalitarian, isn't it?" And they'll go, "Yes," and they'll think to themselves, "I thought of myself as an egalitarian, so this is now an egalitarian issue." You know, this is something I have an issue with because I don't agree men should get longer sentences on women for the same crime. And no, I mean, who does? You know, feminists. That's who fucking does. And so it can be raised as an issue that is actually going to resonate with people. And there are going to be people who have these fucking horror stories. And then there are, I mean, we see examples of these in the papers all the time where my missus hates when women get an uneven sentence compared to a man. Like, if a man and a woman have committed the same crime together and the woman gets a short sentence, I'm sick of hearing about it. I keep telling her I'm not an MLRA. But the point is, there are people who care about this. But the thing is, you can't tell them it's gynocentrism because that isn't something that engages with them. You know?
Right. Well, I recognize that if one wishes to present a populist message, then you need to be engaging and have something catchy, like, I don't know, the white race is in danger or some such thing. It's a little inaccurate, but people catch on to it. Yeah, but once again,
change things. You've got to be a populist. You've got to have people's attention.
I'm a terrible populist now, so maybe that's just my. But to be fair, I mean, I'm not saying this to brag, but over the years I've been doing this for over 5 years. I've received dozens of messages from men of all ages saying that I literally prevented their suicide. So it's not as if things I do and things I say have been completely for naught and in vain.
No one's saying that. That's the thing. Right? If I thought that you had given no valuable contribution, I would not have you on the stream. So that you are here is an indication that I think you have at least said something that's helped someone. And the thing is, like I said, I don't disagree with what you're saying. I agree that these are like the base impulses that human beings biologically are driven towards, and things, the world is obviously a complex place, people are rational people, so, a lot of different things happen, but it is the underlying impetus, sure. And I don't think
it's more of it's more of a discussion about why we're going to use a very slightly different vocabulary when we're talking to different people.
Yeah, well, not even that. It's more.
Well,
about...
Karen does that all the time.
Sure.
I'm not going to tell you. I mean, I have private conversations with Karen on more than one occasion, and she doesn't speak to me the way she speaks in public, and there are obviously good reasons for that.
Oh yeah, and I see she even speaks to someone like Stephen Crowder differently to how she would speak with someone like Jenny.
She has to. Stephen Crowder is what we would call a tradcon, or a traditional conservative.
Definitely.
Yeah, but my point is, it's emphasizing different aspects of the issue, I think, is important. Because if you emphasize the underlying primeval causes that people aren't even thinking about and are kind of falling into default patterns of behavior, which is, I think, what's happening with these judges. When they're handing out sentences that are extremely light, they're thinking of it from a man. They're not thinking of it from the law. And so that obviously is a failure on their part. And I agree that it's because they're not just thinking. They're not thinking to think about it, And so I think approaching it in this sort of, hey, this is anti-egalitarian, forces them to think about it. And then, I mean, that doesn't change the underlying reasons or anything, but it at least addresses the direct problem, and it brings attention to the underlying reason.
Yeah, and not only that, but when you have something like anti-egalitarian, you do know where the line is. When you say something's gynocentric, it's only focusing on it's focusing purely on the pro-women side. It's saying this is favoring women, and we've got to make sure it doesn't favor women, and then you've got to make sure, but then it doesn't have any way to prevent it from not favoring men at some point.
And not only that, telling people that you don't want to favor women, even if you mean I want equality, they're going to hear that as I want to degrade women in some way. That's how they're going to.
Especially when you have an academic ideology that has kind of been using that intentionally for decades. So
maybe. I mean, this seems to be mostly about public relations than anything else. I myself have little interest in that.
But the thing is, you're an influential person, and
I'm not influential. I'm small potatoes.
Hey man, you prevented dozens of guys from committing suicide. I'd call that.
Well, I suppose in some sense that is, but as far as YouTube is concerned, I'm small potatoes. But
that's not the measure.
So do you really think that this has all arisen from a simple misunderstanding and simply a question of how you direct certain messages in different ways, and in one context you do think ultimately that's what this is about?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't see any sort of philosophical differences other than that, or like ideological differences, really, because I mean, we all agree that this is certainly a key component in human gender and sexual interactions. You know, I mean, I can't imagine there's anyone that is going to say that men and women are the same apart from feminists, right? So you know, it's obvious that this is the case. Every fucking culture does it. I mean, come on, at what point are who's going to disagree with this? So I genuinely think that this is about more how the problem's approached, and I think the important thing is making sure that people aren't being biologically determinist about it and saying that women.
Well, okay,
always...
this is something that has been misinterpreted many times. I've made videos about this to other as the term biological determinism is a misnomer. It's used as an accusation, and I think people don't understand when people say that. Oh, they think it's all biology. Of course not. The very nature of evolution is an interaction between the environment, which influences the biology, and vice versa, and that's how evolution occurs. Selection pressures from the environment lead to adaptation. So the notion that someone's a biological determinist because he stresses biology as a factor is a bit ludicrous. Now, I think this term is used as an accusatory factor.
Just to jump in there, I don't think that's what people mean when they say it. Then, what they mean is I think the problem that people have with it is it's taking out the layer of reason that people can apply to their lives and do apply to their lives.
It's more of the idea that this is a biological thing. So this social issue has some roots in biology. Therefore, we're never going to solve it.
That we might need to accept that as a possible hypothesis, though.
Yeah. Oh, that's a possible hypothesis. A possible hypothesis is very different to the hypothesis that we're going to accept and act upon.
Well, I mean, I think that, however you want to term it, evolution, biology, I mean, I don't know what term is acceptable. I'll simply use evolution. I like to use the term autopilot. I think much of our behavior can be reduced to things we're just not even aware of.
Sure. I agree.
In sort of unconscious recoiling at harm done to women. But I mean, take the whole Game of Thrones controversy, which led to supposedly them removing some of the violent scenes or sexual scenes that had violent undertones done to women. Meanwhile, everyone is missing the fact that Game of Thrones is all about violence. You know, men are being gutted, they're being castrated and tortured. This is what I mean by autopilot. People don't think about this. They just sort of, the women are being affected, and they don't even think about the men.
In that case, was that done by feminists, though?
Yeah, it was. It was definitely done by feminists. And I can actually say, to be honest, that when I watched Game of Thrones, I was just thinking, they're going to burn Shireen. Yeah. It's going to happen, and it did. And I wasn't surprised by it, so...
But I mean, but the thing about feminism is there are different interpretations. One interpretation, which I think is valid, is, and as Tillier pointed out in his video, people obviously took umbrage at that, is a sort of very extreme expression of our concern for women's well-being, which is, as he pointed out, you don't agree with me, you're a misogynist, you won't get laid. Them pointing that out in the show and people reacting to it, okay, might have been feminists who pointed out, but the fact that the producers or whoever is running the show reacted to it that quickly and said, okay, we're going to tone it down, shows that we have this, gynocentric mechanism effect, rather than saying, you know what, our show's fucking cool as it is, and fuck you. They didn't do that, though.
All of feminism is because of gynocentrism. If the world wasn't gynocentric, feminism couldn't exist.
Well, that's an excellent statement that I agree with.
Yeah. So there's no contention there. But the thing is, I think people are worried because when you start saying, well, this is because everyone's too favourable towards women, then it kind of, the next logical step, I think, in a lot of people's minds is, okay, so what do we do about it? And then, now we're going to have to make laws about women. And I don't think anyone wants to go down that road. Would have to propose things about specifically women if that was something we were going to actively target. Or we could go for the sort of, okay, well, let's just make sure the laws are enforced as they should be, and that's something a lot more palatable to people that will achieve the same end.
Perhaps, but once again, we have to accept the possibility that just might never come to pass.
That's true. They might. It might. You're right. You're absolutely right. I mean, we don't know what the future of this sort of I dread to call it a movement, but like the future of these ideas is going to be. I mean, it could like exactly could be as you say that people are simply impervious to change, and even making them aware that look, you're obviously discriminating based on sex here, and it's because you hold an innate bias towards women. Then they might not care, but they might, and we might achieve some significant traction. And I do think that pointing out the hypocrisy of it is something that changes people's minds. So this is why I'm not particularly bothered with the sort of ponage channels where they all they're doing is like surface level demonstrations.
To be honest, I'm not bothered by them either because I don't watch them.
Yeah,
but
I don't particularly. But
yeah, and to be honest, they do more good than they can do harm.
I think so.
In any real sense, because let's just say that these ponage channels don't actually like add anything to the real conversation.
But no one's disagreeing that they do more good than harm. In fact, Teal explicitly stated that multiple times that there's a lot. I'm paraphrasing. There's a lot of stupidity out there. It needs to be addressed, and these channels serve a useful purpose in that. I don't really understand what was so contentious about this. I mean, honestly, I don't even understand why you, Spinosaurus, made a video response. I don't understand why we're having this discussion because I don't really think anything particularly controversial was said. Now, you used the term pseudoscience several times, Spinosaurus.
Yeah, because as far as I was concerned, what Cultane had produced in that video was by any measure pseudoscience. Like he actually had fallacious reasoning within his methodology, which translates to not being scientific, i.e., pseudoscience.
Can you be specific?
It was the term attractiveness. He equivocated on it. He took the measure of women choosing men's rating men's pictures on 1 to 5, and then when he applied it to the graph, he chose. He was saying that attractiveness was based upon a man's material wealth.
Well, it's not the sole prerequisite, but it's certainly an important factor in determining female attraction.
Well, no, but the point was what was measured in the OkCupid study was not what was then put into the graph, and as far as I'm concerned, that was equivocating on the results.
Right, so there's a mistake then.
Well, yeah, it was a mistake. But pseudoscience isn't necessarily intentionally dishonest.
Maybe it'd be worth.
So what? I mean, I'm once again trying to understand where the disagreement really lies here because I'm not. I mean, as you said, I mean, generally speaking, everyone here kind of stays in their lane. I do my own thing, you do your thing, etc. I don't see. I honestly still don't see what was controversial about or provocative, particularly about Teal'c's statements, apart from certain people feeling personally attacked by it, and if that's the way they feel, that's the way they feel. He didn't direct it to anyone.
Yeah, but there was even like direct quote. There was even sort of very very specific things said, the quote right near the end was something like BuzzFeed is the arse cancer of the internet. That was clearly directed at Shoehornhead. That is a direct quote from her.
I don't really know very much about Shoehornhead. I saw her parody of Sandman, which was mildly amusing. I have to admit I am a bit biased towards her, against her, because for geographical reasons, if you're listening, Long Island, but that's a New Yorker thing. Apart from that, she can do her. I don't know. So I don't really follow the whole ponage video, so I can't really comment on that.
So you don't have to feel called to defend it. But yeah, I don't think there is. I don't think there's any particular contention on the merits of the arguments themselves, though. As in, we are in a gynocentric society, but nobody who's suggesting that is saying that women can't also reason and that they don't necessarily choose the low road. Most women choose the higher path, surely, right?
In what sense?
As in, women aren't just constantly marrying up, are they? Only 50% of marriages end in divorce, and so half of women aren't doing that.
Perhaps, but you're also not taking into account cheaper to keeper marriages, are you? There are plenty of marriages that are just not happy, that are not worthwhile ending because of the financial
but then they're not
disaster that would ensue.
But that's the point. But that's exactly the point, right? That sure, that might be like an underlying desire, but like every human being has got the underlying desire to get a better status in life, including mate, wealth, whatever. But like you say, it's there's the layer of, well, it's just easier if I just carry on, and I'm not.
Yeah, but I mean, then we're failing to understand how hypergamy works. I mean, it's not constant, and it's not always the same thing. When a woman passes her reproductive prime and loses her attractiveness, it becomes a lot more difficult, frankly speaking, to find a new partner, because men, just as women favor men with status and wealth, men like young, attractive women. They tend not to like middle-aged women very much, or at least on a physical level. So it becomes more difficult to do that. But I mean,
but that's the thing. It is one of these things that isn't something that's a constant. Not all women do it. It's not something that's...
Well, I would argue that just as virtually apart from some fetishists in males who like, I don't know, giant quadrisexual rhinoceros women, most men like women with the bust to waist ratio and symmetrical faces, and that's a kind of universal, or that is a universal, and I do think that hypergamous behavior is universal in women because it was useful in the past, before we lived in civilization and states and so on and so forth.
Yeah, but what I mean though is that not all men end up marrying beauty queens. So
no, they can't. Most of the time, they can't get them.
Well, exactly. Of course, that's exactly it, and it's exactly the same for women, isn't it? They can't all get high status guys. So despite the fact they might want that, they're going to then go, okay, well, I'll marry a guy who's not so high status, but matches a bunch of other categories that might be secondary, but are still important factors, and that's how life goes, isn't it?
And who's suggesting that like status and appearance are these like as massive as you're saying? I'm pretty sure if someone was like was a woman was really attractive, but she was just a complete cunt, you might find that she has trouble with men.
Certainly possible. No one. I mean, there are obviously a multitude of factors that can factor into that. But when we're trying to understand behavioral universals, we need to take into account the basics, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
what men like and what women like, basically.
Yeah. And I don't necessarily think that status itself is the universal. I'm thinking that there's things that are causally linked to status that might actually explain it better.
It depends on what you mean by status. I mean, status in modern society usually means you have money, for example. It's possible, I suppose, to have status and not have money, like you're some thug in a neighborhood that happens to rule over a mob. But generally speaking, status is equated with having money, I think. So status and money. Influence.
Yeah, and you would agree that something like general risk-taking behavior is necessary for success in the business world, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
it's why men tend to be better at it on average.
Yeah, intelligence tends to be causally linked to socioeconomic status, right?
Generally speaking, yes, that's true.
People who are richer tend to, because of that, tend to be more confident.
Sure, yeah, that's true too.
So what if these characteristics are what's actually being selected for, but and then statistically, you can see hypergamy in statistics, but that's not.
I think you're playing a semantic game here now. You're saying, well, the actual attraction factor is confidence, and yeah, that's actually to some extent true. I mean, with PUAs and no love for PUAs, many of their tricks involve projecting an air of confidence, which isn't necessarily backed up with the material resources that would normally correlate with that confidence. So it certainly, and this is because, once again, evolution has taught, I think it's an innate psychological trait in women, to hone in on confident men, because confident men, on average, have access to resources and have status.
But I think what Spinosauruskin is saying, I think he might be right here, is that there are low-status men who have this confidence. And so it isn't necessarily the status that they're going for, it's the confidence they're going for. Because evolution has tricked them into thinking that confident men have high status.
Yeah, pretty much. That
Right, but I mean, this would also, I mean, assume, and in the case of say a PUA who's just trying to get laid, okay, fair enough, he's managed to do his PUA tricks or whatever. But let's be honest, I mean, the confidence is certainly a factor. But if a woman knows some guy is a corporate lawyer making lots of money, I mean, yeah, he can be confident. I have no doubt of that. But things are just obviously on display. We're talking about scenarios where essentially where you can kind of fake it to make it, okay? But in the vast majority of cases, women know about the profession and all the things that go along with it. And I would imagine if a man, I mean, this is why a lot of women are disappointed with their encounters with PUAs, right? Because they turn out to not have all these resources and not stay around and all these other things.
Yeah, but they are, you know, other important things. But I mean, I'm not suggesting that these things don't count either. I think there's probably, each woman probably has a specific tier of things. So I've met women who are unbelievably obsessed with their husband's career. They are just convinced beyond reason. And then there are women like my wife who, I mean, when we first met, I was completely penniless and she was smitten with me. So it was, it was one of those things that she wasn't going for my status. There was obviously something else about me that she was interested in. And I think, what you're suggesting, I think, is that there is a list of things and they have a hierarchy, and there may be like an average hierarchy in each woman, or for like the total sum of women. But I think we can all agree that this hierarchy is different for each woman.
Well, there's obviously individual variation, but once again, you could look at general trends, and I mean, what I'm saying essentially is that if hypergamy were not a hardwired trait in women, we wouldn't be here probably, because civilization might have failed, because women would have reproduced with men that would not have stuck around and helped them out and provisioned them, etc., etc. So I think it is a hardwired trait. The degree of it, absolutely. I mean, there's some women that have a greater tolerance threshold. Now, I know no one looked at my response video. I don't even like to call it that, but in it has an article from a few years back which talks about how women who initially insisted that their husbands stay at home and take care of the children quickly became disenchanted with them, and this led to divorce and discontent and ruination of the marriage. And this shows a consistent pattern that, by and large, for example, if you're earning less than your wife, in fact, there's a divorce lawyer who's an expert in the article who says, yeah, that's not a good idea if you're going to go into that. So I do think there's of course there's the question of degrees, but I would say all women are hypergamous to the same extent that all men like curvy hot chicks, unless they're fetishists.
Sure, but are we not? I mean, do we not default assume that everyone has a self-interest in what they're doing?
Oh yeah, look, I mean, I'm not faulting women for following their instincts any more than I think anyone should fault a man for wanting to fuck young hot chicks. I mean, whatever,
Well, I mean, there are obviously going to be women who don't want that, and there are obviously going to be men who don't want hypergamy, because they fall outside.
No, it's a pain. The problem here is that the sexes want oftentimes very different things, and so someone on one side or the other has to concede something, and it's often to the detriment of the wishes of the other person. So yeah, I mean, you're right. Men don't necessarily want hypergamy, and women don't necessarily want some guy fucking lots of other women. They want investment, but that's why relationships are so complicated, and that's why fundamentally, beyond, and this is my view, beyond the reproduction aspect, I don't really think men and women get along particularly well.
Yeah, but what I mean is, like, it's all well and good saying, look, women's self-interest in relationships is hypergamy. Men's self-interest in relationships is a young, fertile woman, and they're going to try and get to as close to perfect on that as they can manage before they settle and consider other factors. But that's just like anything. Everyone is obviously going to try and get the best that is good. Good for their physical, biological position, right?
Yeah, I mean, nobody. I mean, yeah, obviously, everyone is pursuing self-interest.
Yeah, exactly, everyone is. So, but the thing is, I mean, do you not think that hypergamy is used in a slightly accusatory way by some people?
I I mean, I would need an example.
There are a lot of MGTOWs who are people who have been hurt, and this is how I found the MGTOW community, because I've been hurt, and so, and not just hurt either, but just manipulated.
Everyone's been hurt.
Yeah, but I
see
manipulated.
They were hurt.
Emotionally manipulated by women.
No, I don't. Okay, fine. I mean, this is sort of this. They're hurt, and I mean, because I see where this is going, and this is often used.
But it's an emotional thing that they're expressing.
There are some men who have been hurt. Anyone who's of any substantial age probably has been hurt.
Bad experiences.
Bad experiences.
It appears that a lot of the men within the MGTOW community who have joined the MGTOW community in certain areas, and I kind of sort of private groups. I don't and I always like hide the names if I'm gonna show anyone anything, but a lot of the stuff they say in there tends to correlate with I was abused, or I've had like 20 shitty relationships and I'm just giving up on women completely, and this is sort of indicative of all womankind.
Well, to some, I mean, the problem is that you'd have to be really specific, and I'd have to know the specific examples.
Because I think it's also worth like speaking in their defense. This is why I do have a lot of sympathy for the MGTOW community. It's why I don't make like videos on MGTOWs who are saying stuff that is frankly stuff feminists also say. There is an absolute trend in society to be gynocentric, and part of that trend is to represent women well in media and in public. You know, to give women the benefit of the doubt. That is an overriding trait in men's minds. They want to believe what a woman's telling them, and this has led to many men getting burned because they have been convinced by the sort of societal myth that women are
sugar and spice and all things nice.
Exactly, and then they'll meet a woman who pretends to be this because she can. She turns out not to be this because she isn't, and he gets absolutely crushed because of it, emotionally and in the courts. And you know, that guy, I totally feel for him. You know, I really fucking do. And just in case anyone's listening, right, there's this YouTuber called Spetsnaz. Look him up.
I love Spetsnaz.
He's fucking amazing.
You know, Spetsnaz left YouTube. Do you know why?
Oh, tell me.
Because of all the shitty stuff going on from some of the MGTOW stuff I had mentioned earlier. Just saying that it's never been a uniform group. But I mean, and sorry, to be fair,
let me just finish this point though, because and I do feel for these guys, but to then turn around and say, you know, this is all gynocentrism. It's not. I mean, it is, but it's not the only thing that's going on, and it's honestly, and I hate to say this, you know, you're gonna have to be a little bit stoic about it and admit you made a bad choice. You know, you're gonna have to say,
well,
I was fooled.
There is, and also it's it seems to be this idea that because there are certain women who pretend to be sugar and spice and everything nice because of the cultural idea, that then and then turn out to be cunts. They sort of assume.
I don't even think they pretend. I think this is. I don't even think they. I think. You know, men and women operate differently, and they fall in love differently. And I think, legitimately speaking, these women probably, when they initially met these guys, were in love with them and adored them. It's just that women fall out of love much more rapidly than men. Men are the true romantics. It's why men commit suicide at far higher rate after relationships. Women are able to detach much more quickly.
Okay,
now,
hang on a second. I don't agree with that.
I don't know about that.
Well, I once again submit to you that if in the cases of marriages that fall apart in relationships, men commit suicide at a far higher rate.
That's just because men do anything better than women.
Sorry, that's because men what?
Men do anything better than women. No. Listen, let me qualify that before Kevin Logan finds it. Right? If men don't tend to cry for help. So when women try to commit suicide, that's cry for help. They get the attention they need. They get therapy, whatever. Men just go and kill themselves. Women don't just go and kill themselves.
It's not just that though. It's also the fact that even the men who do cry out for help end up not getting it.
Yeah, because we live in a gynocentric society. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's maybe a lot more to do with that rather than
I think it's
to do with.
I think it's an
ending the
evolved
true,
evolved mechanism.
Yeah,
I think legitimately think, generally speaking, of course, not all of them, and this is something that's been annoying throughout the years to always have to qualify everything with generally speaking.
Mm.
When I'm making statements along these lines, I do mean a mean, an average.
Yeah.
I'm not saying all, but unless you qualify it for the
the
purposes.
problem is that
Well-
there are certain times when certain people do say all. Actually, to use Spetsnaz as an example, he did a video called "The Female MRA," and in it he was saying that women tend to sort of take over the conversation about something like from gynocentrism, change it to feminism, and he would say, and I thought, oh, he just probably means generally speaking, and then he qualified, no, I mean all women do this.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I'd have to see this specific example, but I do think, generally speaking, women, much more so than men, are in a position to sort of just detach from sort of quote unquote deep relationships. I mean, I think there's an evolved mechanism behind that, which explains that as well. But we could talk about that. It's a hypothesis, evolved mechanism, or we could talk about something else.
But I think the important thing, though, is the generalization. And I agree that like generalizations are useful and can be accurate to a degree. But the thing about generalizations is by framing everything in a generalization, you can never really do that much with it. Because if there are women, like you can't say...
Well, it helps you explain population demographics.
Sure. Yeah, that's it. It's a way of explaining things, but it's not something you can sort of put forward a positive change for necessarily. You can't say, well, women are doing this, therefore we need to stop this from happening, because not you'd have to target women to do it, and not all women are doing that. So
yeah, it might be better to just target the specific behavior that's causing harm in a more neutral fashion.
Yes.
Well, okay, we need to be. So, what behavior are we talking about now? I'm kind of losing the thread.
Let's talk specifically on the court issue with the judges giving women lighter sentences. That is a specific issue we can target because we can say, look, we can demonstrate how they're different, and it's not something that requires any change that discriminates against women, because not all women get lighter sentences. Not all women are, this isn't necessarily something that is universal. It's something that's in specific cases, and that can be fixed by just enforcing the actual laws and making sure there isn't a gender discrimination there, and recognizing that is gender discrimination.
I think there is some kind of practice where you're supposed to compare the crime that's been committed with the circumstances that it's been committed in, with other similar circumstances in similar cases, and then you can compare that with the sentences that were given there, and then that sort of thing. So maybe the possibility is that it might be that women are being compared with women more often, and men are being compared with men more often. But then just compare gender neutral, something like that.
Well, once again, I don't, because this is instinctual. I just don't see any ability to shift this sort of paradigm in this particular case. And this is the easy stuff. I mean, you'd think in the case of
people act against their instincts all the time. My instincts tell me to eat everything in the fucking fridge, but I'm trying to not be a giant fat bastard, so I don't eat everything in the fridge.
To be honest, I would actually disagree with you, Stardust, that the sentencing gap is one of the simpler, easier stuff. I think that's going to be one of the harder ones because there's nothing actually written in the books. Stuff like the sort of the Duluth model written into law and like lack of shelters for male victims of domestic violence, circumcision, those things are going to be much easier to deal with because there's sort of a specific thing that can be pointed to.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, so, well, why don't we talk about the skewed nature of allocating children after a divorce in something like 90% of the cases or 88% of the cases, depending on the country.
No, I think that's one of the difficult ones. How are you going to persuade people that the kids shouldn't go to their mothers?
Well, if people were as reasonable and rational as it seems to be alluded to here, one would hear the evidence, and if the mother had been abusive or not particularly nice and the father had been the better parent, it would be an easy decision, would it not?
It would, and I agree with you that this is definitely going to be coming from an evolutionary standpoint, the sort of perspective of evolutionary psychology, And I think the fact that there's a child involved really does change the dynamic.
Well, the interesting thing is, if you actually look at violence against children, I don't have the stats directly in front of me, but I can fish them out later. Women actually are more likely to commit violence against children than men, slightly higher rates.
Oh no, I think it's
but it's not
even adjusting for greater proximity and spending more time for them.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah, but then it's also but then you've also got to take into account that they are more they are let off of it more. So it's more that there's less of a deterrent than anything else.
There is that. There is something.
Yeah. And you can't really account for something like that because it is cultural and societal. It's not a number you can plug in.
I mean, you say it's cultural and societal. Where do you think culture and society comes from?
Oh no, don't. I don't mean that cultural and societal stuff isn't necessarily biological. I was just sort of talking about. I was just talking about where it came from. So people actually just acting in real life. I didn't necessarily mean that it's not. It's
something they could make a rational decision on, but there is the strong instinct to keep a mother with her child.
Sure.
You know that's the thing, and that. And you know, I think this may be an area where you are right completely, where you know it is a biological thing, and maybe this can't be overcome. You know, maybe human beings just. I mean, I think who doesn't think that the mother should be with their child? It's just an instinctual thing, isn't it? You know, so it may be one of these things that's very, very difficult to overcome, and maybe not possible in real terms, you know. But I think prison sentencing is something that can be done in real terms, you know, because literally everyone is saying we want equality. Okay, great. This isn't equality. Who's arguing? You know. So, you know, we can actually there could be some headway made on that issue, I think. But I agree with you about the child custody, man. I find it unlikely that men are going to get much headway in that. I think the best they're going to get is like good shares of time.
I would personally say that the best direction we could go in first would be circumcision. That would be the one that I would go for first, because you can also sort of play on the think of the children thing.
Well, you know, I don't know, because I mean a lot of people aren't circumcised, especially in this country.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, this really depends. You know, I was circumcised not for any religious reasons, but because I was born in the 1970s, and in the United States in the 1970s, I've read stats somewhere upwards of 91% of infant males were circumcised. It has nothing to do with any sort of religious thing. But we should talk about the religious aspect of that, because in Germany for years now there's been an ongoing debate on allowing male circumcision, and it's one of the few instances where Jews partner up with Muslims and say, hey, well, you know, this is our tradition and all this other shit. And people who speak out against it are sort of painted in an ill light. But, I mean, frankly speaking, I just don't... Most people in Europe aren't circumcised, and it still happens in the United States with higher degrees of frequency, but...
Is the trend downwards?
It's a trend downwards, but I think it's still... I mean, the real question, I think, is why I brought up the religion, is should people, in the name of Islam and Judaism, be allowed to circumcise their male infants? I don't think they should. The analogy I might draw here is, I mean, it sounds extreme, is, you know, what if there was some weird, wacky religious tenet that said, you know, every male child must have his pinky finger chopped off to appease Shmagabaga the god, and you know, and they might not believe in Shmagabaga, but it's a tradition. I mean, we're actually talking about inflicting bodily harm. It does actually cause psychological trauma.
I would say human rights always trump religious freedom.
Of course.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Now we're moving into, I guess, slightly different territory. I would agree with you. I don't think. In fact, I had an argument last year with a. Wasn't even an argument. It turned into an argument over circumcision. It turned out he was Jewish, and he said that it was offensive to him that I said, you know, it's a bunch of malarkey. Unfortunately, though, he didn't want to continue discussing with me. Well, for me, offense, as the late great Christopher Hitchens stated, isn't really an argument. So, but you know, that's the real. I think circumcision, by and large, in the medical community. I mean, there's some people that believe in it, but It's mostly a
Seems to be
religious
only
thing still.
American doctors are the ones who believe in it.
It's dying out. Certainly, when I was born in the '70s, it was it was just the thing to do. So everyone, whatever his background, wherever he came from, had his cock chop. Well, piece of his cock chopped off. But it's been decreasing over the years. I don't know what the stats off the top of my head now are, but certainly it's been plunging. I know that.
Spinosaurus, you're the resident MRA. What's the stats?
Oh, I don't know the direct. I don't know the direct stats off my.
Crap MRA.
Hey, I argue like logic. Shit. I'm not a stats guy.
I'm just teasing you.
Go ask Bane.
Yeah, he'll know. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, circumcision is definitely something I don't. I mean, for medical reasons, maybe. Well, yeah, obviously, but if
the argument is that somewhere down the line might be a lower case of STDs, but
yeah, no, that's
there's no good medical reason to chop the bits off a baby boy's dick.
I mean, if like someone had like an infection or something, or if there was like
obviously, just like if someone had gangrene on his hand and it needed to be chopped off, and you do the same thing.
You amputate a limb if it's got gangrene, but you don't cut off babies' limbs because they might get gangrene.
Yeah, exactly. And then I don't think anyone disagrees with that either. And even feminists are on board with this. There are some feminists who will say, well, yes, we shouldn't circumcise male infants, and I agree. And it is an archaic practice, and you're right. It probably is something that could be more publicly aware. People, but it's hard to get people to care on that. I think if you speak directly to their self-interest, as in you're going to get a longer sentence than a woman.
Well, certainly in American culture, circumcision is actually portrayed as a female sexual preference, which is to say, women will opine about, well, the cut versus uncut. So, cut just looks better. And that's obviously that is cultural due to a tradition of medical circumcision in the United States. And I think that's another reason why people aren't particularly sensitive about the topic. Because they don't really care either way, especially in the United States.
Yeah.
In the UK, it's much less of an issue as it is in Germany. The only people in Germany who chop baby dicks apart are Jews and Muslims.
Yeah, I would still like a baby's human rights to be protected there. I mean, like even if it should be 0, preferably. Or when it's done, it should be sort of legally prosecuted.
Well, this has been a ongoing debate in Germany that's sort of clashing with notions of religious freedom and stuff. I mean, but it might be just specific to Germany because Germany has certain issues with its past. But in the United States, people just don't really talk about it very much. I mean. Look, what's done is done. There's no saving me, and I'm not particularly passionate about this issue, although I don't think it should be done. But it doesn't seem a huge issue that people are sort of just jumping up on,
Well, none of the sort of men's rights issues are big issues that people are jumping on at the moment. I mean, there's a reason the MRM is so small. If they were bigger issues, we've got to make them into bigger issues.
Well, one thing I always find baffling is why more MGTOWs don't support the men's rights movement.
Because, well, I suppose this is one of these points of disagreement. Most MGTOW think that because all this is so heavily laden in our innate biology, including myself, that agitating for change for men is about as pointless as wrestling with a rhinoceros. It's just not really going to go anywhere. It doesn't mean that some of the things that men's rights activists do are not laudable or good. I think in some cases they are. And there are other reasons that are more sort of political or sort of like inner political. I mean, if you look at something like AVFM, way back in the day, they were like doxing. They were doing some things that you think. I mean, Coltrane made a video about this. Like,
Register Her was not doxing. It was all public. Register Her was not doxing. It was public information.
In any event, things that really probably wouldn't bring about change, for precisely the reasons that Sargon brought up before. That if you're trying to bring about change, you have to be a populist, and doing things that whether it was doxing or not that seem sort of to not fall into that vein probably won't bring about that change. But mostly it is because those of us who don't believe it's worth it, don't really see the point in agitating for change that will never come.
Okay, but isn't that just like the triumph of evil being guaranteed because good men do nothing?
It depends, Sargon. I mean, there's some evils that can be fought and combated and perhaps even triumph over, and others what is the Christian prayer of serenity? You know, God, give me the strength to change what I can change, to endure the things I cannot. Something along those lines. I'm not particularly pious, but I mean, some things just can't be changed, and then you have to think.
This is one of those things.
Yeah,
right. This is why for many men, MGTOW is the correct choice. Particularly if you're not obsessed with procreating and having children, then there's just there's no. I mean, here's the thing, and I've said this before in videos many videos. None of the stuff that affects men really affects me directly because I'm not interested in marriage. I'm not interested in reproduction, and for the most part, I just want to be left alone. And by and large, I'm left alone. So I don't have a personal interest, and that's my self-interest, in agitating for change, because I am not interested in those things that potentially, and I don't think they can be, could be changed. You see what I mean?
Yeah, but for me, I think it's a bit defeatist. I would.
Yeah.
Well, it really
I
depends. I don't see myself as a defeatist. I see myself as trying to understand the world and transmit my sometimes flawed but sometimes accurate understanding to people who are interested, and in imparting that knowledge, people gain something from it, I think.
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily a criticism, but I just think, I mean, we don't know that something can't be changed, and so I guess I'm of the opinion of Hannibal. We'll find a way and we'll make one.
Yeah.
The things can change, I think.
Yeah. The other thing I would suggest is that, and this is the more I'm not necessarily saying this is true. It's more of a speculative thing, but ideologies tend to want to keep themselves perpetuated. MGTOW seems to be self-aware enough to realize that most of the reason that MGTOW exists in the first place is because of gynocentrism and most of the sort of discrimination issues against men. If these were to go away, MGTOW would shrink massively.
Yeah.
So it's possible that the ideology is almost lashing out against the thing, trying to solve the problems that's creating MGTOW as a sort of a bandage to the solution, to the symptoms, in a way.
Well, look, as I said, there are plenty of MGTOW-minded men that, if the system could be corrected, which I don't think can be, they would, they'd go back to the plantation, as we say. I mean, for me, even if the system were perfect, I would not myself. I have no interest in it. But which is once again, and I think, and particularly the MGTOW who don't have interest or don't really think the MRA is particularly useful, we're a small subsector. I mean, there are a couple of people like me who really are just kind of interested in discussing human behavior, no interest in marriage or that sort of thing. So why should we get involved with MRAs? Never mind all sorts of weird clashes that have occurred in the past with certain sectors of the MRAs.
Right. Okay. Okay. Well, is there anything else you'd like to say about this subject? Because I think I'm going to try and get Dr. Randomacam on, because I saw his video, and I think I'd like to talk to him on a one-on-one, if that's all right with you guys. So.
Sure, no problem. That's fine.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, well, it's if Tilda comes on, I may well get you back on, Spino. But
fuck Tilda. I want to talk to Doc.
Yeah, well, you can talk to him anytime. But
that's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm gonna send him a link to get him on, because I would like to talk to him about the video, because I thought it was a very interesting video, and I'm sure he probably needs to explain stuff to some people. So, Mike, I've just sent you a link on Twitter in your messages, so go and check that. And yeah, thanks, guys. I appreciate you coming on. It's been an interesting chat, and I think we've cleared up a lot, actually. I think that the difference of people's positions on this isn't as radical as is being made out, and so I don't know.
No, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, thanks for having me.
My pleasure, man. We'll do another talk another time, man. We meant to do one a while ago, we never got around to it, so we can do another time when just about a different subject if you want.
Sure. Okay, have a good night.
Take care. And I'll speak to you later as well, Spino.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. In the meantime, guys, I'm going to go and get a cup of tea while we wait for Doc. Assuming he can even come on. He might not be able to. But I'm just looking at the chat now. Spino, I'm going to kick your ass.
Oh, God.
Right. Well, so Ryp, you all said collectively nothing. I don't think we did say collectively nothing. I think we actually were quite specific on a number of issues. Fuck my T. Fuck you, T. Right, that's it. You son of a bitch. That's it, T. I tell you what. Now, guess what we're privatizing next, mate? Yeah, exactly. Shops. Yeah. What now? Oh, your internet channel. That's being privatizing. We're going to make public even your YouTube channel. That's it. Next thing. Communist YouTube. Doc, are you here?
Aha. Yes. I have arrived and fired. All right. Okay. Oh, fuck. I gotta shut the fucking video down now. All right. I'm here.
Right. So I saw your video on the gynocentrism controversy.
Yes.
And I thought it was a very interesting way you had of describing it. Would you like to just quickly run through it for people who haven't seen your video?
God. Well, I sort of needed visual aids in order to explain it. So it's going
to... Can you not draw on the screen or something?
Kind of. Well,
get a paint pad up and then share your screen or something.
No, I think I could do this. The thing is, it's as hard to explain gynocentrism as it is to explain patriarchy. And this is why it's so easy to fall into a similar looking skin to feminism by saying this is all gynocentrism. Because when people ask, well, what do you mean by gynocentrism? You end up explaining something that's just as abstract as patriarchy. So it's quite difficult. So it seems to bring this to anything concrete, we need to sort of recognize that gynocentrism and patriarchy are just as abstract as each other. So as far as we can tell, they're just as existent as each other. And that doesn't mean I'm saying patriarchy exists. It doesn't mean I'm saying gynocentrism doesn't. I'm saying this is one beast with two heads.
Yeah,
and you can't pretend that there's only one. Yeah.
About the demonstrating it, because one of the pitfalls feminists always fall into is that they describe patriarchy as being different colored toys in a toy store for boys and girls. And this is, of course, a ludicrous complaint and, nothing that anyone gives a damn about who's not a feminist. But what they're doing is they're trying to demonstrate a symptom of a problem. And the same thing would go for pointing out the court cases, the court sentences. It's the same thing pointing out the symptom of a problem. What they're complaining about is not very important, in my opinion, and it doesn't fit the standard definition of the word patriarchy, which I think is what my real contention is. I mean, what they're describing is not anything as fucking overwhelming as a patriarchy. They're just complaining about gender roles. It's like, fucking deal with it. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, what they're describing is a dystopia.
Yeah, exactly. It's obviously not the terrible dystopia they're trying to make it out to be. So using patriarchy it's just a hyperbolic phrase, but using gynocentrism is actually a real phrase. But you're right; it does have the same sort of appearance. It manifests in the same sort of ways to people when you're trying to describe to them. And like you said in your video, you can take 2 hours and explain it.
Yeah, you can try and imagine how gynocentrism would manifest as a concrete system. And for a model for that, you'd only have to look to how patriarchy manifested as a concrete system. It's called feminism. And this is why so many of us, MRAs and anti-feminists alike, spend so much time concentrating on feminism, because it's the real world concrete manifestation of what we call gynocentrism.
Yeah.
This is how far it's got. It's bled into our universities and it's fucking in charge of everything. You can't say it's non-existent anymore. It's called feminism. That's a Latin translation of the Greek word gynocentrism, pretty much.
I love the irony, the great irony of feminism. We're so oppressed. Why? Well, we've only nagged our way halfway to the positions of power. There are still positions of power we haven't nagged our way into yet. The whole like CEO thing, it's all based on guilt. Make men feel guilty that they're the ones who have done the hard work and women haven't. It's like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, this worked for centuries on Catholic people. Presumably the phrase Catholic guilt wasn't in common parlance until relatively recently. It was just seen as a myth. What do you mean Catholic guilt? We don't run on guilt. We run on the truth of God and Mary and Jesus. And all that
Exactly.
shit.
Yeah. The truth of women's oppression.
But now they they're at least savvy enough to understand. Yeah, we were being sort of carrot and sticked a little bit with the guilt thing. So yeah, I have Catholic guilt. Sorry, the Jews figured this out ages ago, and they go, yeah, we understand. We got some Jewish guilt going on. But fucking white people and men have a long way to go in learning. They're still in that stage where they're going, no, this is ridiculous. We have we have genuine reason to feel guilty.
Yeah, I actually saw an independent article the other day that was talking about a study that had found that maybe humans don't even have free will. And I was thinking, fucking hell, I hope
well, we can't fucking prove it. We've tried. Yeah. It always results in a spiral of a conversation.
People apparently always come to a rationalization of their actions afterwards, regardless, and assume that it's free will. So there are going to be some cases where it is and some where it's not. But
yeah, as long as there's only one timeline we can measure, it's impossible.
Exactly. We can't know, yeah. But yeah, so I think your description is very interesting because I do actually spend quite a lot of time pondering about the concept of patriarchy from a feminist position and literally interpreting what they're saying and then trying to accurately represent in my mind what they're getting at. And what they think patriarchy is this overarching societal pressure from individuals making up society to keep women in specific gender roles, and men, of course, also. I mean, there probably is this pressure, and so it is a thing that exists, and you can point to the gendered toys and Toys R Us and say this is proof of patriarchy, because again, the word is wrong. It's not a patriarchy. For fuck's sake,
you can point to ancient Greece and say, look how different their customs were from ours. That's how different you can make things with just social organization alone.
Of course.
And if the ancient Greeks were pushing themselves and each other into certain gender roles, very, very different gender roles from the ones we have today. And if anything's a patriarchy, it was that shit.
Yeah.
So how people can look at this sort of in the wake of 2,000 years of Christianity and female virgin worship and say this is a patriarchy. Yeah, that's incredibly daft, and it only works because we're so deeply sunk in whatever the fuck the opposite of that is.
Yeah. I mean, I think if they were to call it a genderarchy or something along those lines, whatever, there are gender roles and there are people who, people do police each other on these things sometimes. And there is a general societal pressure for women to be feminine and for men to be masculine. Accept all of this, but these aren't like societal mandates. You can do what the fuck you like. The whole idea that this is oppressing them is a joke. If you're being oppressed by masculine and feminine gender roles, then you're a fucking weak, pathetic fool.
It's like saying boys and girls oppress each other. I mean,
exactly.
Obviously they have rows from time to time, but that's part of how they get along.
Yeah,
it's like obviously a race can oppress another race because they haven't intrinsically been growing up together for generation of millions of fucking years and shit that necessarily have been separated for a while. You can't say that people have been existing together for millions of years oppressing each other. That's completely not how nature works.
Yeah, and so the thing that they are terming as patriarchy, that I'm just going to call genderarchy for the purposes of distinguishing it from an actual patriarchy, their complaints about the genderarchy, I mean, they are legitimate. I mean, Toys R Us are separating an aisle into pink and blue, and so it's the same with gynocentrism. They are getting shorter sentences and all the other various issues. So these things do exist, but I think you had an interesting way of representing it because they are two sides of the same coin. They are an expression of gender roles in society. So it is a true thing, and there are definitely, and I think it's right to make the distinction that, I mean, like a competitive workplace, like a corporate workplace, I mean, they're incredibly feminized now after decades of women running HR departments since they became a thing, but like the idea that feminists put forward, the stereotype they're putting forward is that, oh, you know, workplaces are very masculinized, they're very competitive. And they are, you know, they are competitive, but that doesn't mean there aren't competitive women. And that's what I mean. It's wrong to kind of gender that, you know. I don't really know where I'm going with this. I'm just trying to explore the feminist concept of patriarchy in gendered spaces, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know where to take it either.
No, the thing is, I think it's important to recognize things that are true, and you know, you're obviously going to get. I mean, most houses, women do decide the decorations. You know, they do decide everything that's going on in the domestic sphere. I have one room in my house that my wife isn't even allowed into, which is my office.
This is what I meant. I sort of half mentioned to point this out, that the inflation of the purple sphere, i.e., the women, is the inflation of the domestic sphere. It's not just the population becoming entirely women. That's not how it works. But it's the domestic sphere taking over and the wilderness sphere no longer existing because the defeated tribe no longer has control of the wilderness.
Yeah, and I think a lot of men have
an illusion of domesticity, and that's all, kind of what's going on with minorities in certain areas. They have an illusion of domestic fucking dominance. And
the thing is, I think a lot of the time, the problem with sort of the male-female interaction is that men just have a problem saying no to women. You know, I mean, I personally have got no problem with male-only spaces, in the same way that I don't mind women-only spaces. I mean, I don't think these should be, you know, private institutions, sort of like, you know, a church. If they were like, we're only having male priests, I'd be like, well, that's your choice. You know, it's not, you know, no one's compelled to do that. And then a woman-only gym, okay, well, that's your choice. No one's compelled to do that. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, and if you're going to have a women-only space where you make decisions as women, and then you come to all of society saying, here are the decisions we've made as women, then, you know, it makes sense for us to come back with, okay, we'll go off just as men and figure out another solution, and we'll come back to you with that, and we'll compare those together. What do you say?
Exactly. Then
but their response is, no, that's misogynistic.
Yeah,
you can't exclude women from decision making in any context. Now take these decisions we've made.
Yeah, and that's what it is. It's the kind of domestic takeover of things. And so, I mean, I have no desire to see absolute equality with people. I mean, look, I'm just going to get something up that I was going to get for This Week in Stupid. Hang on. This is entirely emblematic of my point. Give me 2 seconds. Sorry about this.
In the meantime, I'm looking over what's happening in Target at the moment, because I've got lots of time on my hands now.
Right, okay. I've got it. Just, share the screen.
Got like 7 different videos muddled up on my other screen right now. It's fun being a full-time YouTuber, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a hell of a life. It's very interesting. You get to do some really interesting things. So this. Can you see this article, everyone? I assume you can see it, right?
I can. Female researcher, women. Yeah.
We must make STEM courses less competitive to be more inclusive of women. Now, I mean,
what the fuck?
This is literally what they're asking for. There is an opportunity for STEM courses to reduce the perception of the courses as difficult and unfriendly through language use in the syllabi, and also as a guide for how to use less competitive teaching methods and grading profiles that can improve the experience of female students. Right. So now this is my entire point. They have in their mind a highest principle, and that highest principle is there must be more women in these subjects. Men tend to have in mind the principle these subjects need to be as efficient and meritocratic as possible.
Yeah, that's not specifically competitive. It's merely competitive by nature, you know, just as a byproduct. We're not being deliberately sort of, let's be the best at this. It's just,
no.
You know, we're trying to figure out the best answer, and that's necessarily becomes competitive. It's not like we're deliberately being sports teams over this shit.
But competition breeds excellence. You know, that's the whole purpose of competition. That's why Europe did so well while China stagnated. And so you've got like the idea that, I mean, it's at this point we have to then decide, okay, well, which is the most important principle? Now, obviously, meritocracy in science, in STEM, is, you know, far more important than the number of vaginas in the room. So the idea that, you know, anyone's ever going to give on this, I mean, it's never going to get mainstream traction in and of itself, obviously. I mean, I'm sure they're not going to have women quotas in science. I'm sure.
We keep saying this, man, every time something we say, there's no way that world's going to happen, and then something fucked up like this happens.
Yeah, then they start talking about it, and then next year it becomes a thing. So, yeah, this is why I think we do need to start actually pushing back now. But yeah, this is the point, and so it's not wrong to tell feminists and male feminists and anyone agitating for this that no, it is not imperative to have 50-50 women everywhere. In fact, I don't even think that's desirable necessarily anywhere. I think that the women are interested in that. The thing is, this is the point. It's to say that these traits are gendered, and I don't think they are gendered. There are competitive women, there are competitive men. There are uncompetitive women, there are uncompetitive men. There might be more uncompetitive women than uncompetitive men, but that doesn't really matter. You know, we're not here to discriminate based on gender. We're here to discriminate based on competency. You know?
Yeah. And so that kind of discrimination is allowed. That kind of discrimination is called fucking diligence.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's called standards. You know, that's what it is. It's just having standards. Sorry, you can probably hear my son crying, but he's old enough now that he's actually just crying because he wants attention. So I can't go and get him. So I apologize to anyone who's listening, because I'm not allowed to go and give him attention because he'll go back to sleep in a minute. So yeah. So what else about the way you've described it with the two spheres inside each other, one inside another, is there that you think people aren't quite picking up on, or anything like that?
I don't know. I think I explained it wrong by saying that men have the freedom and women have the protection, when it's pretty obvious that men don't have much in the way of freedom. But yeah, maybe I fixed that by saying women don't really have much in the way of protection. They have less now under this system than they did before. You know, I say men have the illusion of freedom and women have the illusion of protection.
What do you mean by the illusion of freedom? And MGTOW's not exercising their freedom.
Well, yeah. Well, in what way do men have more freedom than women? In the way we can sort of measure how and why women have more protection than men. I mean, legally speaking,
they necessarily do have more freedom or anything. I mean, I don't see any sort of legal difference in freedom from a sort of standpoint.
No, it becomes freedom as a result of hard wearing. Basically, it's this great irony that still doesn't have a name, that when you mollycoddle someone, you disable them mentally, psychologically, and you give them less freedom. But if you're not even doing that on purpose,
I don't know if you can necessarily characterize that as giving them less freedom. I think
no. That's why I'm saying I sort of maybe worded it wrong there.
Yeah, I mean, character obviously comes from adversity, and people need to overcome adversity to grow as a person. So you are undoubtedly sort of emotionally retarding people by mollycoddling them. I mean, this is what millennials are having major problems with. You know, so it's.
They didn't understand the situation you're going through now. There's a stage where you have to let them cry.
yeah.
They didn't even read up on that much.
Yeah, exactly. They have to figure it out themselves, you know. So yeah, obviously, I mean, and this is just anyone who knows anything about human character can just say, well, obviously, if you mollycoddle someone, they're going to turn out to be a whiny, entitled brat, you know, who is just. You're not doing them a service as a person. And things that the problems that they're going to face later on in their life after becoming sort of accustomed to this for like 15, 20 years or something of their life are going to be more difficult to overcome emotionally and from a sort of psychological perspective than had they had to do this as a child, you know? So yeah, I think calling it freedom is the wrong term, but it's not.
Look at the quote. I think it was Benjamin Franklin, wasn't it? He who would sacrifice liberty for security deserves
neither. Yeah, but I hate that phrase. I really hate that phrase because
I'm probably translating it wrong.
No.
But there's something to it.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's kind of just his arbitrary judgment. Oh, so they don't deserve either. Well, who you'd say that what they deserve? You know, come on. It's just they're not going to. It's more they're not going to get either. That's the issue. It's not what they deserve. You know, you're going to end up sacrificing both. You know.
Yeah, well, so that whole sentiment sort of runs right into my theory that, to some degree, possibly biologically speaking, men rely on sacrificing a little bit of protection for a little bit of freedom, and women rely on sacrificing a little bit of freedom for a little bit of protection. So, that little phrase sort of does something of a disservice to female nature.
I agree with you. I think that's a great way of putting it. Actually, it's the choice to sacrifice, because that's exercising their power. That's their agency. And I think it's important to note as well that feminists and, like, I guess, and I hate to say women because it's so general, but there is a trend among women to try and make everything a safe space, you know, and there's a trend among men to prefer to reject that in order to be able to express themselves properly. And you're right, you know, it's rejecting safety for freedom and vice versa. And I think that feminists particularly, but I'm sure that there is a class of woman who is not a feminist, but is just a very bossy woman and thinks she knows best for everyone. And you know who I'm talking about when I say this. You know the sort of woman I'm talking about. The sort of
yes, way more common than feminists. It may be less than 20% who identify as feminists, but it's a great deal more than that who do the thing you're saying.
The bossy HR woman who knows best for everyone. We are going to have to assert and be unwavering on this position that it is okay to have unsafe spaces. In fact, it might be mandatory. I don't know how
dangerous spaces. We need dangerous spaces.
Well, don't say
let's
dangerous.
Get dangerous.
That's never agree, unsafe. That's how we're going to do it in Newspeak. But you know what I mean? I do think, I mean, whenever you read like early 20th century sci-fi authors, one thing that I've noticed is a common thing: the idea that people will become so advanced that they will take time out of their advanced civilization to go and live in the woods for a couple of years as teenagers or something, just to keep themselves grounded and to make sure that they understand. And I'm honestly thinking, are we getting to that point? You know, are we experiencing the first?
That was supposed to be what university was, because I still look back at think of university as that sort of halfway house between living with your parents and living on your own.
Yeah,
sort of being in charge of your own destiny, but not quite, because you're still within the grips of an institution. And then by the second year, you're living in a shitty house in a shitty city with a bunch of other shitty people, and boom, you're a person, kind of. But that's all changed now, because now you go to university, and the first thing they say is, "Here's your bubble, sit in it, do not leave." Yell at anyone who tells you to leave your bubble. Yeah,
it's fucking awful. But yeah, I do think that we need to stress that unsafe spaces are okay. That it's okay for them to exist. So I do think it's this eternally gnawing fear that if, and I only know this because my family is full of these bossy, overbearing women. I used to be such a contrarian about it as well. I used to be such a dick. But it was and the thing is I know it was about fighting this kind of control, and I think this desire for this kind of control comes specifically from the fear that things might not be okay. You know, that something that is outside of their control will grow to be something that will always be outside of their control, and it will do them harm. And I think it's important for us to explain to them in some vague way that they will understand that it's not their business to worry about, so stop it.
It's fundamental pessimism at human nature. Yeah. It's the idea that people can't figure shit out for themselves. Yeah,
you know, the people you're dealing with are actually generally good people, and they will try and figure out the generally right thing to do. And I think it does come from pessimism, obviously. So, yeah, was there anything else about that your example that you wanted to make clear?
No, yeah, I fucked up a few of the graphics. Like occasionally the green would get bigger when it should have got smaller, if anything. But I did it all in a day. Yeah. So the occasional small details going to slip through.
They're not a big deal. Okay, so is there anything else you think that was worth adding to this? Because I mean, all of this seems pretty straightforward, and I'm really surprised this blew up into a big issue. You know, that everyone.
Yeah, it was partly one of the reason I made that video, because I saw that Spino and Teal'c got into a bit of a scuffle, and I thought, I like both of those guys a lot. I should try and explain something to the best of my ability. To me, it's not that straightforward. That's why it gets people so riled up, because it's not straightforward at all. There's a 1,000 different ways you could go at this, because it's so abstract. Because this is the problem with naming the problem.
Yeah,
because this is why the problem's got so big, because it's been so abstract for so long.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's not get riled up over. It's like the argument you have about free will. We know that it's impossible to have that argument, but still we get very fucking riled up because there's always one dude who thinks it exists and one dude who insists it doesn't, and they get pissed off at each other for what's a pretty big argument, but it's still just an abstract philosophical argument. It may be a very significant thing to argue about. This might be the kind of thing that gods argue about, but it's still not the kind of thing that should take over your entire life as a mortal being. Because you've got stupid shit to worry about, and sometimes the stupid shit's more important.
Yeah, it's a sad state of affairs, isn't it? But yes, we are but mortals, and sometimes the stupid shit does have to take precedence. So yeah, I mean, I guess if we've got nothing else to add, I'll end the stream there then, because I don't. I mean, I'll probably get loads of people going, "My God, look at all these things that I have issue with," and I'm like, "Oh man, what?"
Yeah, sorry, we didn't wrap everything up. It's you can't just go home, folks. The show must go on.
I'm not saying go home or anything, but like I don't think there's actually that much disagreement really. It seems to be about semantics rather than core principles or issues. Core ideas. So,
separating the abstract from the concrete when they're intrinsically connected. So let's not separate them. Feminism and gynocentrism are the same thing. So the people who yell at gynocentrism don't get annoyed at the people who yell at feminism and vice versa. We're all on the same team here.
Yeah, I'm just checking Twitter. Someone said check Twitter, so I'm just... Oh, God, someone's giving me a libertarian argument about the government making you more secure is a bad idea. England wasn't always free. Oh, God, I'm not even getting into it. I'm not seeing any particular questions, guys. So if there is something, then I have no idea. But anyway, okay. Well, thanks for joining me, man. I'm sure we'll talk again in future on a stream or on Skype or something. So I'll speak to you later. And
there will be more to discuss, no doubt.
Yeah, and thanks everyone for listening. I'm sure that there will be much contention in the comments, and I will be obviously reading them. So speak to you later.